Mike's on. Mike's on. Zoning Board of Review is now in session. For those in attendance this evening, we have a fairly large agenda, and the board only meets till 10 o'clock. So anything not heard tonight will be carried to our regular meeting of September 21st.
Mr. Chairman, it'll be October 19th.
October.
Yes,
There's no
no September meeting.
It's not going to be a September meeting?
No. We can't, I'm not gonna be here. Leah's not gonna be here. We tried for the
Okay.
14th.
So October 19th. Okay. Alrighty, first item is roll call. Mr. Eric Reposa,
Present.
Sue Horowitz,
Present.
Charles Kevin Donovan,
Here.
and Langdon Harris.
Present.
And Chairman James Nod is here as well. Next item on the agenda is minutes. We have no minutes to approve. Moving on is election of officers. The town council, with regret, accepted the resignation of Mr. John Borden, who had been a member of this board for 20 some odd years. That left a vacancy in the vice chairman's position. Mr. Furell, who is not in attendance tonight, but has expressed a desire to obtain that position. I don't think there's anyone else. So I'll take a motion to elect Mr. Ben Furell as the next vice chairman of the zoning board.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion been made and second to elevate Mr. Furell to vice chairman of zoning board of review. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Now that leaves the secretary's position open, which I'll nominate Mr. Eric Reposa for that position. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second to elevate Mr. Reposa to secretary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And with regret, this is Mr. Harris's last meeting. Mr. Harris, who is our second alternate, is doing what we all should have done when we were young, which is travel around the country and then maybe settle down south, correct?
That's correct.
Congratulations on your new degree from Wentworth as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time served. So those in attendance also, that leaves 2 positions open on the zoning board for anyone that's interested in joining.
Meeting is normally shorter than this.
Yeah, and we get paid a lot of money to do this. That's the best part. What did we get, a 10% raise this year?
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it was 12%.
Yeah, 12% of nothing is still nothing. Okay, moving on. First item on the agenda is under old business. It's Noel Clavalou for property located at 15 Atlantic Avenue, tax assessor's map 29 lot 83. Is Ms. Clavalou here? She is not.
She requested by email to have the petition withdrawn without prejudice.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion that we allow the applicant Noel Clavalou to withdraw her petition without prejudice?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on. First item under new business is a petition by Garrett DeCastro for property located at 2951 East Main Road, being tax assessor's map 31 lot 2B, which is zone commercial. The applicant seeks a special use permit under Article 5, Section E 14 and Article 7, Section G, and a dimensional variance under Article 7, Section G to construct a new commercial building over 5,000 square feet with a side setback of less than 25 feet. Mr. Chappelle.
Good evening, Court Chappelle, Law Offices, 171 Chase Road. I'm here tonight on behalf of Mr. Garrett DeCastro. We have been already to the TRC meeting, to design review, and to the planning board. You should have at some point in your packets the notes from both. And as a condition, if you see fit to grant this, We have made concessions at all of those boards and agreed to incorporate both of those decisions as written. When we first met with the Technical Review Committee, as you know, that's the chief of police or a police representative, the fire department, a member of Department of Works, and other town representatives, including the planning department, and we show them the entire project there. They do a lot of the technical aspects of recommendations, fire chief specifically, and fire lanes and distances, sight lines, and those things. DOT for things like pervious pavement and maintenance plans and things that need to be done. Police department for safety, exits, and all the things that go along with their purview. So tonight I have with me Garrett DeCastro. I have Josh Morrow from Principe Engineering, and I have Chris Fagan, who is the designer and architect of this building. And the first thing that I'd like Leah to do is to pull, or Aaron, I'm sorry, to pull some of the renditions of the building from each side so that the board and the audience can see the building. I hope what you will find is that this building is certainly as nice as any of the commercial buildings in town. It is pursuant to our comprehensive plan, done in a barn architect style that is supposed to be fitting with the area. Remember, we are building this on Borden Farm. We are not here. Court Chappelle is not here unless we went to Mr. Borden and showed this to him first because his name's on the building. And the integrity of the existing barn that's there, the integrity of the old apartment building that's there. This is going to be located between the apartment building and what I call the Edenbachs building, which is the building off of Potomac that houses the church and some schools and things like that. With that in mind, and for compatibility of the neighbors, it is up on East Main Road. It's important when you look at the site plan to know that the Borden Farm at one point was a much larger piece. Residents known as Borden Farm Road, they cut off their houses and it left just this big commercial piece. Mr. DeCastro owns the apartment building. Because he owns the apartment building, he did not want to be building a commercial building next to his apartment building that ruined his value as much as it ruined the neighbors to either Potomac or Borden Farm. That is another reason for the integrity and architecture of this building. He also had concerns with the Edenbachs, for instance, that what way was I going to face my garage doors? If he faced his garage doors towards the Edenbachs, noise would go towards their back. But they were in a position to put the back of the building to the back of the building. So the back of the Edenbach building, and most of their noise would be in the front where kids were entering and people were entering. And ours faces north. So the backs line up. Mr. DeCastro is going to tell you what he does for a living and what he doesn't do for a living. And what's more important than what he does is what he doesn't. What he doesn't do is run premier landscaping with trees and mulch and stone anymore. This is premier gunite pool. There is no storage of outdoor materials. That's been represented at the planning board. It's been represented at design review, and it's been represented that any condition of a special use permit that you grant is no outside storage of materials, no work outside. This is a building that will house his offices, his couple employees that aren't working in the yard, and mostly designed to put all of the trucks that you saw him run this operation out of across from St. Barnabas Church inside instead of outside. So a large portion of the building is going to be used for warehouse, and 1,000 square feet or so will be used for an office. He will store his trucks, his plumbing pipe and material and other clean material. This is not where you process gunite. This is not where you mix cement. This is not where there's any manufacturing whatsoever. That is all done off-site in other places. With that, I think I'd like to swear in Mr. DeCastro and have him give you an overview of the project.
Sure. Good evening.
Raise your right hand. You want to tell the truth?
Yes,
Full name and address, Teresa, please.
Garrett DeCastro,
24 Randolph Way, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Garrett, I know you're born and bred in Portsmouth here, but tell me a little bit about your business as it started and as it exists today.
Sure. Bare Roots was graduating high school as DeCastro Landscaping back in the day. That evolved into Premier Landscaping, so a lot of outdoor living, patio space. You guys know me mostly from that, maintenance, etc. That has now evolved into Premier Gunite Pools. So at the moment, we are 100% a pool builder.
So landscape places sometimes have outdoor materials, piles of mulch, piles of dirt, piles of pavers and stones. You understand that that's not going to be done here and there's no outside storage of materials here. Is that right?
Correct.
So what do you see this building? How are you occupying this building?
Well, this building was really intended for two words: indoor storage. I want to be able to fit our trucks, our equipment in there, our tools, our supplies, our inventory, pool heaters, pumps, plumbing, piping, all the good stuff. So we do not need any exterior storage. I'd like to keep it clean. I'd like to keep it neat. Court mentioned, I have an equal, interest in keeping a visible appearance, owning the farmhouse and having 6 tenants to keep happy and not devaluing that myself.
And when the lot was cut off, it was actually cut off before you purchased, is that right?
It was, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and this lot abuts East Main Road and goes back, but it doesn't go back to the residences that we call Borden Farm Road, is that right?
Correct.
In fact, this lot is about 120 to 125 feet short of that.
Correct.
So the apartment house is actually an L-shaped lot that runs along the north side of your lot, and then L's behind it where the septic system is for the apartment house.
Correct.
And because the septic system is located in that grass field in the back 120, there's nothing going to be there either. There's no development there. That will stay as it is today, which is the septic field. Is that right?
Correct. Which would have to be a maintained field.
All right. How is it you get to the look of this building?
Look at this building, when we contacted the architect, was architecturally, I wanted it to fit that Borden Farm historic look while having a little bit of a modern twist in it. I think he nailed it. I think we've got a lot of barn details in there while having a nice functional open space.
You have the color picture. Now, the color pictures, that drawing did it some justice, but these are the black windows and the black trim, is that right?
Correct.
Which we see, if anyone has seen it anywhere else in town, that look is on the Casey Oil buildings on West Main Road that have the siding and the black windows.
Very good
and that look,
example.
right?
Yeah, very good
Now,
example.
The design review also holds us to our task on what we represent are going to be the exterior materials. This is not a metal building.
Correct.
This is a stick wood built building.
Stick wood.
It is hardy board on the exterior or white cedar shingles in other areas. There is stonework on the bottom.
Yep.
And the door that faces East Main Road is a decoration, correct?
Yeah, we've got kind of that barn door look to make it look like an original barn from the front. So just a fun detail.
Now, this building is 50 feet wide. Why?
Measuring the trucks, I'd like to fit 2 trucks deep. That was kind of the working theory, to fit 2 trucks in there and really get as much in there and leave me some room for growth.
Well, part of the comprehensive plan says that in order for this board to grant a special use permit, that this will be compatible with the neighborhood. And that generally means architecturally as well as size. This is a 9,000 square foot building, is that right?
Correct.
The Edenbach building is the closest building to you and abuts you just over the wall, is that right?
Correct.
That building is 9,550 feet. So as it relates to that building, it is either less than or comparable in size, correct?
Correct.
You then have your apartment building in the barn, and the next commercial building to the north is the plaza.
Yes.
Okay, the plaza is 32,000 square feet and 5 times bigger than, my math's off, 4 times bigger than this building, is that right?
Correct.
Right. Across the street from the plaza, you have the Ace Hardware or the old NATO's building at 9,750 feet, is that right?
Yes.
So if you look at this with and I have all the tax records to show that if you need it. So if you look at the neighbors at 9,500, 9,750, and 32,000, as to the commercial areas in this immediate area of Portsmouth zoned commercial, this is compatible as to size.
I agree.
I'll let everybody have an opinion on whether it's a better looking than at least two or three of those other buildings, but certainly better than the mall and better than the old block building that was NATO's, right?
Yes,
Okay. Now, it is zone commercial, is that right?
correct.
And you understand that as a service business, which is what has been determined that you are through not only my office, but the planning board, you are allowed as a matter of right,
Yes,
which means you could build this as a matter of right if it was under 4,500 square feet. But our ordinance under Article 7 Special Use Permit says under Section G that if your building is 4,500 square feet or more, you will require a special use permit for a service center. Is that right?
correct.
So we are here asking for a special use permit and need to meet the A through J criteria of Article 7 for a service complex under Section G. Is that right?
Yes,
Now, with that said, we also always look at setbacks. The front yard setback in a commercial zone is 30 feet, and you have designed it so that you require no variance. Is that correct?
correct.
The rear yard setback, I believe, is 30 feet, and you're 67 feet. Clearly designed it so there is no rear yard setback variance necessary. Is that right?
Correct.
And since you own the 120 feet of open space behind you, the nearest neighbor to Borden Farm is 120 plus 67 or 187 feet from the footprint of your building. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Now, you always have a choice of whether to aim a building north or south or east or west. And arguably, there is more noise coming from the open side of your building than there is from the closed side of your building, correct?
Absolutely.
Did you choose to aim the open side to your neighbors, or did you choose to aim the open side to yourself?
I kept the open side to myself.
So all the open side and the parking lot heads north, which is property owned by you in your tenement house that you bought with this. Is that right? Is
Castro, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Sorry, yes,
that correct?
correct.
Okay. Now, let's talk about what you don't do there. Any mixing of material there?
No,
Any powdered material that goes into your trucks there?
no,
Anything that's delivered that has to be transported between your trucks there?
no,
Your trucks go out in the morning, they do their job, they come back at night.
correct.
And what are your hours of operation generally?
Typically 7 to 5.
Do you require a sign?
Minimal signage.
We're not asking for any variances for signage.
No,
This isn't a place where people come to your office necessarily to meet. You do that on site or in their homes normally?
yeah, correct. So
Okay.
most of it is on-site
So
consultations,
other than Amazon and
deliveries.
FedEx and
yeah,
deliveries finding you?
That's about it.
In looking at this site, did you design the parking lot as well?
I did.
You and I have talked about parking, have we not?
Yes, quite a bit.
All right. So if you had a 9,000 square foot warehouse, you'd only require about 7 or 8 spots. Is that right?
Correct,
But that'd be a little disingenuous because you have your office there
correct.
and you expect, how big is your office now?
0. But give or take a couple hundred square feet.
Okay, but we actually calculated 1,000 square feet of office.
Yeah.
And when we did, we looked at our ordinance, which said that you need 4 parking spots per 1,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then as to the other 7,000 square feet or 8,000 square feet would require another 7 or 11 spots. Is that right?
correct.
But one of the concerns of design review, of TRC, of us, of fire department is the size of that lot in case somebody else owns the business down the road. Is that right?
Correct.
And this has been designed inside and spaced inside as 3 different units. 3 units of 3,000 square feet.
Correct.
And if you put 1,000 square feet of each of those units as office and 2,000 as warehouse, we would need for each unit, 4 for the 1,000 plus 2 for the extra, or 6 per unit or 18.
Correct.
We have 30 parking spots put here. Is that right?
Correct.
Not because we generally need them, but because we wanted an area to make sure that trucks could safely turn around We're never backing out into East Main Road.
Correct.
We're never having to negotiate 9-point turns to get in and out of your parking lot. Is that right?
Correct.
Those parking spots are also exclusive of inside the garage, which doesn't count, and that entire building is parking.
Correct.
All right. The board got two separate drawings because there is a single variance. There is no lot coverage variance. There's no other variances, right?
No.
The board has two drawings. The first drawing locates your building 25 feet from the eastern property line, which is the line shared with the Edenback building.
The south property line.
When you, that's the drawing at 15 feet. Is the other one? That's it. If you notice this is the drawing at 25-foot setback on the east side, and there's not that room for the double row. So there's 15 parking spots, and the fire department has what they have to turn there. Is that right?
Correct.
When we were at TRC, we are asking for a 10-foot side yard variance. Is that right?
Correct.
And that is a 10-yard side foot variance on the south side, which abuts the Edenback property. Is that right?
Correct.
When we talked to the police, the fire department, they wanted the bigger parking lot as well.
Correct.
And the extra spaces also allowed design review to put 3 handicap spaces, one for each unit. Is that right?
Exactly.
Can you show us the other one, please? So merely by moving that 10 feet and just having enough would have as much as 30 spots. We
Correct.
don't need 30 spots necessarily, but to show that we have enough area there to do full turns and to never have a problem down the road. Is that right?
Correct.
The reason that that is a variance, under your commercial ordinance, you only have a 15-foot side yard. That's 15 feet. The only reason you need it is when you get into Article 7, it says 25 feet side yard, but specifically says the board can vary it. Okay. And both TRC, design review, and specifically in the planning board minutes, we've asked them, please just don't pass judgment, positive or negative, but pass judgment on whether or not you believe this board should grant us the dimensional variance on that side. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, the most affected neighbor of that, I assume, would be the Edenbacks, who are also here tonight. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the back side of that building on their side, besides having nothing there, I'm going to let Mr. Moreau talk about the stormwater retention. But the stormwater retention in this case is all underground. So there's no retention ponds, no mosquitoes. We're storing water underground, and one of the places we can store it is underground on that side. So we'll only see grass over there, but it'll be part of the 25-year storm retention. Correct?
Correct.
You'll note that Article 7 calls for a 10-year storm retention. And just because of the way things have changed, we've 2.5 times that is what we designed for.
Correct.
And we also heard last night at the planning board that although designed for a 25-year storm, it has structural integrity to handle a 100-year storm. Is that right?
Correct.
We've talked about lighting, have we not?
Not yet this
Well,
evening.
not this evening,
But
but
we
you and
have
I.
talked-
you
we
and
have
I
talked
about it.
about
Okay. So one of the things that comes up in any commercial area is what the lighting looks like. Did the board get the lighting packages?
Yes, we did.
So I'll have our architects specifically say what they are, but they are the architectural gooseneck lights. They are security only. You don't need to light your parking lot at night. Is that right?
Correct.
We have no, your trucks, if you come in after 5 in the winter, there's still going to be lights in the trucks. And when the doors open, they'll have lights as well,
Correct.
right?
Exactly.
So the outside lighting is not only dark sky compliant, and the make and model has been provided to the board, but it's also warm light under the spectrum of light recommended for low density areas that may be even in a residential neighborhood, never mind close to them.
Yes.
Technically, we do not abut a residential neighborhood because we abut ourselves and the
Sure.
Edenbacks. Is that right?
Correct.
Despite that, one of the ordinances that we have is that whenever a commercial building abuts a residential neighborhood, we will put a row of abrevieties. And I am going to make you test about the landscape plan because you did put it together. But that row of abrevieties, although not necessary in when a commercial abuts a commercial, we have a landscape plan that has substantial landscaping all the way around and to the east side,
East side.
which is Potomac and Borden Farm, it has a substantial row of solid evergreens. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, two things have come up, or one thing has come up. It came up both at technical review committee and it came up at design review. There are two places to put trees. If I only own this lot, there is one place to put trees on my border. But because you own the back lot, you could either put them 67 feet from your building on the other side of your septic and before the open field, or 180 feet from your building, which is 120 feet further to the east, and put them along the border of the Borden Farm properties.
Correct.
If you're a Borden Farm neighbor, you could either look out at a row of trees that were close to you, or look out at a row of trees that were 120 feet away and have the maintained grass because it needs to be maintained for the septic system. Is that right?
Correct.
You thought that it would be better to see the grass field, but you have been open and said to design review that if the neighbors wanted that adjusted, you didn't necessarily have a preference and would work with neighbors one way or another, whether they wanted it close to the wall or 120 feet away. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does the, could you,
Yeah, that's
Right.
option
That's
A
the
versus
lands-
option B.
okay. So, let me just go over that way we can see it up there. That first option has the row of trees along that property line that is Borden Farm. Is that right?
Correct.
And the second option has it on the property line. Either way, they are planted in accordance with our ordinance of proper size from ball. I think it's 4 feet of ball.
Yeah, these are 6 to 7s.
Yeah,
So
6 to 7s. Either way, they'll protect the screen of the building. It's just a matter of where the field is. Is that right?
correct.
Design review likes and often asks our board to do a tier of offset.
More natural barrier.
Right. That offset natural barrier would be allowed on the edge by Borden Farm because we have the real estate there to do it. Between the two septic systems, because of the rules of how far roots are away, we would have a straight line there. Is that right?
Exactly.
Other than that, the other big trees along the road and the big trees that show that exist there now, every big tree that can be saved was saved. Is that
safe.
right?
Correct.
Along the wall between the Edenbacks, all the healthy trees stay.
Correct.
But design review has asked you to look at the trees that are unhealthy and clean up that wall. And as a condition, you can work with the Edenbacks to see which ones you guys want to remove. Is that
Correct.
right? But the walls stay.
Wall stays. All the stone
Okay.
wall stays.
In the front, there's also a stone wall that stays.
That stays.
Currently, the access to the property is what I'll call a horseshoe driveway that goes into the apartment building. Is that right?
Correct.
Because it's a horseshoe, it has two entrances. One of them happens to be drawn on this lot where it's located. The other is on the other one. So Rhode Island DOT is you already have the two curb cuts.
Correct.
Principal Engineering will be drawing that up. It'll be a separate entrance for the commercial and a separate entrance for the apartment with the gravel area before the apartment to be cleaned up so that it's large enough so that anybody parking in the apartment never has to back out there's plenty of parking and turning radius for
Correct.
them to get in and out without backing onto East Main Road. Is that right?
Yes.
This landscape drawing is slightly different than the original because DOT wanted us to slide the trees along the driveway back. So at maturity, they would never be impeding your drivers from looking up and down the sight lines onto East Main Road.
Correct. Better view corridor.
And you looked at the view corridors because the view corridor you currently had at St. Barnabas was a one-way view corridor. You could see north, but you could not see south. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was one of the instrumental parts of purchasing this property is measured sight lines, safety, and the light at, I call it Dunkin'
Dunkin'
Donuts
Donuts.
light,
Yeah.
which gives breaks in the traffic for safety. Is
That
that
should
right?
help as well. Yes.
So you believe this is going to be a good spot for you?
Good and safe. Yeah.
Do you believe it's compatible with the neighborhood?
Yes.
Believe that it fits the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Do you have an opinion whether it'll affect the solar rights of the abutters?
No.
Do you think it'll create any safety or parking or health issues, the way that driveway enters onto East Main Road?
None,
Your trucks and your business have already operated on East Main Road
correct,
and have done so safely,
familiar with,
but you still haven't crashed it, right?
safely as well.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we covered most of it.
Mr. Chappelle, couple things. First of all, I want to clarify one thing. What we're looking at is a single use proposal, correct?
What we did,
That's wait a minute.
yes.
That's
you
a
are-
yes or a no.
That's a yes.
Okay.
But we put it in as 3 units. The reason we put it in as 3 units is because I think the buildings should be designed so that if somebody else takes it, or if he isn't as successful, that he has a right to do 3 units. I was not gonna do 3 units and say it doesn't have individual handicap spot for 3 units and individual parking for 3 units. But there is no doubt it is his goal to try to occupy all 3 units.
I only say that because as much as the applicant would not want the board to say, well, we're gonna place this condition and this condition because you might down the road do this. I don't think it's fair to the board to say, well, we're gonna do this. So we're considering this right now, single use.
I just want to tell you this. Although I think it qualifies as a 3 unit and we should go forward that way. Remember, the board has a safety net. It is the building that has to get a special use permit.
Right.
Any occupancy of any business on the planet has to go through them to make sure that it is a permitted use as a Y and not a S. Now, a service complex retail, that would include hairdressers and plumbers and electricians, but they would still have no outdoor storage. Everything is inside. So the building, the same way you approved more of a warehouse down in the town center, you didn't approve whether it was a pool warehouse, an electrician's warehouse. So it is 3 units, but it is restricted to only the people that can allow as a matter of right. Anybody else that has a business that is questionable or requires an S is going to have to come before a board. And anybody that wants outside storage would have to come seek a modification to the special use permit. So it's designed with modifications, very restrictive for a single use. But in theory, it is clearly presented as 3 units. And the design review, originally design review said, how do I know it couldn't be 6? I said, because you should cut it. You should put in your recommendation that it's limited to 3 units, and they did. And the planning board joined in that recommendation.
Let me just ask you one question. We saw the 2 proposals with the non-setback relief request and with it. But I didn't see a 3rd one, which was, what if we just reduced the width of the building by 10 feet? And problem solved. Now, remember, this is as Mr. Borden would always say, this is a blank canvas. A blank canvas. And anyone should try to meet the ordinance when starting from a blank canvas.
Although I agree.
Why is this so special that it requires any variance whatsoever?
I'll start by saying, remember that in a commercial zone, it is only 15 feet. It's just here 25. And although it's a variance, it's the only place in our ordinance that says, hey, although we said 25, we specifically give you the right to take a look at this. So it's more of a softball variance under our ordinance under G, I believe, than another one. He's also in front of the other board said that the 50-foot width is because of the length of his trucks and to try to get too deep. And he's trying to merely get 2 trucks that a little bit bigger than a pickup truck, but at 22 feet at 44 and 3 feet to walk around them on each side. So by dropping it 10, you make it 1 depth. And because it's so primary storage, you make 1 depth. Now, if you just tell them, sorry, kid, you're only going to have 7 trucks in there, I can accept that. But by that, you get everything inside. And the more he gets inside, the better it is for everyone. So that's the reason I think it's more than a mere inconvenience. The other thing is, again, the fire department said, I don't care what your needs are. I like the wider front. I like the turning radius. I like the ability to have that. So safety, I think, comes into it as well. And I will let the neighbor on that side speak for themselves. But if they don't have a problem for what the fire department appreciates, for what we know is going to be safer for our trucks, for what we know is going to be more people inside, I think that would meet our standard, especially in this one, because it's really the same as every other commercial lot in town until you get to this ordinance. I don't even know if that was a mistake, because every other, if you're really going to change things because of the size of the building, you ought to change everything. You ought to change lot coverage, you ought to change height. You didn't change anything. We
Right.
found it. I actually thought it was a typo, but it's not, it's clearly there.
Turn your mic on.
Okay.
Okay, but turn your mic on anyway. Okay, does anybody have any questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Chappelle.
Mr. Fagan. I stole all your thunder, but introduce yourself first.
Chris Fagan. I'm the designer of the building.
Okay. Just swear to tell the truth,
I do,
full
yes.
name and address.
Chris Fagan, 75 Calendar Avenue, Newport, Rhode Island.
Chris, I know you're an architect. You do it for a living. How did you get engaged in this project?
I've known Mr. Castro for a while. We've done some work together on some other projects. He came to me and was interested in this building. I've previously done the Casey's Energy building in Portsmouth, the Fire X building, the Shell Rapid Lube building, and Ragged Island. So he knew that I have done a number of stuff here in town, and we're comfortable working together.
And were your marching orders to make it compatible with the area?
Yeah, we wanted to draw on something that had sort of the farm aesthetic.
And were your marching orders to make it fit that portion of the comprehensive plan that said keep the architectural integrity of Portsmouth?
Yes,
Right. And you knew there was a barn right next door, which most people consider a pretty important piece of
Yeah.
Portsmouth.
we want to do something that would complement it.
And the house itself, the antique house, and in complementing it, you came up with this drawing.
Correct.
All right, whether marching orders on making sure that the doors were facing our own property as opposed to neighbors.
Yeah, we wanted to give the door space a building.
And there are no garage doors or openings that face. There's some fire doors, but there's no garage doors or operational doors that are used in a daily operation on either the south side towards the Edenback property, towards Potomac, or towards the homes located on Borden Farm Road. Is that right?
Correct.
And no windows on that side that are opening that are going to let any noise from inside the building
Correct.
go out. Now, we've been here on all the meetings to hear testimony that there's no noise necessarily inside the building other than the parking of vehicles as well. Is that right?
Correct.
Lots of times in these commercial buildings, we worry about where HVAC is going to be, where it's going to, air conditioners are going to be, where the heat exchanger is going to be. And they're often on a roof and those can be noisy. Have you heard that complaint?
I have, yes.
I was with you when we did it. Very cool.
Yes, we've been down that
In
road.
this particular case, this entire top of this building is really ornate,
Yes,
meaning it's trussed
Mhm.
and it is not a place where you can go up and hang out where all those windows are. Is that right?
yes, there's no rooftop access or units.
And that's specifically designed for air conditioners and heat exchangers to be 100% inside the building. So there's no noise and no roof and no need for the facades that we usually use to hide them. Is that right?
Correct.
Is design review especially was interested in the architectural integrity. Is this a metal building or our parents' vinyl siding?
No, it's not.
What's the building made out of?
This would be a wood frame building with cedar shingles and hardy board siding,
Okay, architectural roof shingles,
architectural grade shingles,
and the stonework on the bottom.
a veneer stone.
And tell us about the windows.
The windows are basically, we have them spec'd as Pella sort of pro line windows now.
But that's that black.
Yeah, it's a black window.
And you designed and drew the renditions, is that right?
Yes, yes.
We show those one more time. Yes. kind of a close-up, but that's the building on East, that's kind of from East Main Road at Edenbach's driving north, is that right? That
Correct, yeah.
window will face forward, and those are kind of faux set of doors,
Yes,
just for architectural integrity, is that right? And the back, the front of the building, the small window is where the office will be,
yes,
okay? And the rest of it are just fire doors out the back, and the only lighting is the small
gooseneck down lighting. Yeah,
gooseneck down lighting just for security, is that right?
correct.
All right, can they, they don't need to be on all the time
No, they're dark
Timers.
sky compliant.
and warm light, is that right?
Yes,
And that's the front of the building with the doors. And obviously those trees would be after maturity, is that right?
correct.
And assuming that landscape plan comes in and this building is built, you have an opinion whether or not it's going to affect the quality of the apartment building immediately next to it and or any of the residences 187 feet away and Borden Farm and whatever distance on Potomac.
I don't think that this building is going to have a negative impact on the character of the neighborhood.
And when you size the building, although it was specifically to try to meet the needs of Mr. DeCastro, it also happens to be smaller than the immediate building to the south and to the first commercial building that's not Borden Farm to the north, which is the plaza,
Correct.
and the commercial buildings across the street, which is Ace Hardware, and I call it the Loriano Building. So that's an area that there's a lot of big buildings, but with some integrity.
Yes,
That's all I have.
Two questions. I assume the predominant main part of the structure won't be air conditioned, but I assume maybe the office part would be. Where would the condensing units go?
in the event that there were condenser units, I think as of right now, we would have them on the east side of the building,
Outside,
outside, yeah.
so they would have to be outside on the
Yeah.
east side where the neighbors are. Yes.
They could go there, or they could go on the other side, on the south side.
Okay,
They could go south or east.
Depending on the line sits.
right,
I
exactly.
mean, it's still,
So the planned HVAC, what's the fuel type gonna be?
I think at this point it'd be gas,
Is there gas available there?
Gas in the street.
gas in the street, yeah.
All I had, questions? Good.
Thank you.
I know you're not a restaurant. Tell us about your trash.
Trash, we really don't have trash other than office trash. Most of our job sites have dumpsters on them, so most of the time guys are disposing of trash there. In the event that we do have light trash out of trucks, back of trucks, et cetera, we do plan to have a small dumpster that will be screened on site.
And that was the screening behind on the east side where it was located on the plan,
Correct.
but it's in a fenced-in screened area. And again, this is office trash. We're not mixing chemicals. We're not running a restaurant.
Correct. And that's proposed if we even need it. So
In your current location at the Castros, did you need one?
we did have one, yes.
I believe that's all I have. Nathan.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board,
Raise your hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
Joshua Morrow, 27 Secana Ridge Drive, Tiverton.
Josh, who are you currently employed with?
Prince B Company.
And what are your current engineering degrees?
I have a bachelor's of science, civil engineering.
You've testified with me many times in a
Yes,
few different jurisdictions here.
yes,
You qualified as expert in front of other boards.
yes.
Has to qualify him as an expert in civil engineering.
Do I have a motion to recognize him as an expert? in
I'll make a
civil
motion.
engineering? Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I only do that because you're doing some important things, which are surface water runoff. Have you, when you calculate surface water runoff, it is not only the size of the building, but the impervious surfaces, including the driveways and those things. Is that right?
Correct, yep.
First thing, tell the board the difference between pervious and impervious concrete or pavement, asphalt.
Sure. So impervious pavement would be typical asphalt, bituminous, something that water, rain can't permeate through. impervious would be something that it can, and therefore go into the ground.
And pervious pavement, because it has holes and needs maintenance, because if it gets clogged and full of silts, pervious becomes impervious,
Correct.
right? And one of the recommendations last night from the planning board was that the building inspector approve what's called an OM plan or management plan, operation management plan
Correct.
for that pavement, so that your calculations of pervious versus impervious stay true. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Calculating what is there as the pervious pavement and calculating the roof runoff. And knowing our ordinance asks you to, at least this ordinance asks you to design for a 10-year storm. Have you met the 10-year storm?
10-year storm.
Have you
yes.
met the 25-year storm,
Good.
which is a requirement in other areas at the planning board, just not the antiquated Article G?
Yes, the 25-year storm has been mitigated as well.
And then last night they asked us, even though it's a 25-year storm, seems like it rains a lot around here these days. So it needs the integrity to withstand a 100-year storm. And we've testified that that is the case as well. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep.
Now, sometimes we run this surface water above ground and we run it into what we call retention or detention areas. And our neighbors look and say, is that going to be mosquitoes? Is that going to be ponds? And how long is the water going to be standing?
Mhm.
There's a more expensive way to do it. Is that right?
That's right.
Tell me what you did here.
Shown here is underground infiltration basins via storm techs. Roof leaders will drop down the gutters of the building and be routed underground to these two areas, one on the west, one on the northeast. As shown on the plans, and they'll be underground.
Okay, those are those large rectangular areas, both in the front and in the back.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and that's basically still seeping into the ground. It's just in the tanks underground until such time as it has time to seep down, which eliminates that mosquito and that other issue. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
That also eats up land, which has something to do with helping us move this building back to gain room for our parking. Is that right?
Correct. That and a few other factors, as you know.
But when you combine with the better surface water running system, the pervious pavement and the need for turnarounds for the fire department and those things are all contributing factors to asking to put this building back to the 15-foot normal commercial setback line as opposed to the 25-foot Article G setback line. Is that right?
They are. That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Water quality is as important as where it runs in and floods. Tell me about water filtration.
Yeah, sure. So in addition to those calcs, groundwater recharge and water quality standards have been met. As far as the topography, I think you're asking me about is, downhill runs northeast, conveniently where one of our drainage basins is located. Additionally, again, the 25-year storm has been mitigated. Furthermore, our abutter is our applicant, with us today. So
What's important and what came up last night, but everybody wasn't here, is even in a 100-year storm where things are filled, the topography of the land will take that water, and that takes the water onto other land of Mr. DeCastro.
correct.
Right? It doesn't take it towards the Edenbacks. It doesn't take it to flood East Main Road.
No.
And it doesn't take it east to either southeast to Potomac or due east to the farm. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
It goes into the meadow, if you will.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else engineering wise you'd like to tell us?
There's nothing further there.
Well, actually,
Septic permit is in hand.
we have designed for ISDS for the 3 offices for capacity. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And it has not only been designed, but it has been approved.
Correct.
Okay. We also normally consider whether or not we have RIDOT curb cuts. Is that right?
Correct.
2 curb cuts pre-existed and therefore have rights.
Yes.
They line up in such a way that 1 curb cut can be used to access and egress to this property, and 1 can be used for the apartment.
Correct.
And because of the size of that big gravel parking lot in front of the apartments, the fact that you're not going in and out doesn't change everyone's ability to turn easily and get out without ever backing out onto Main Road. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Have I also asked you to look at the sight lines
Yes, stopping sight distance,
and in
yes.
choosing where you put the building? Not only did we want to be against the Eden back to back and facing our way, but the best sight lines were to use the existing driveway that is there now. Is that right?
Correct.
And looking up East Main Road and down East Main Road, is it unobstructed sight lines so that you can see the distances that you engineers decide is too close or too far?
Unobstructed, yep.
And because of that traffic light, is that aid in situations to give breaks in the traffic for vehicles to come in and out?
It does, yep.
Do you therefore have an opinion as to whether this will create any traffic hazards or problems on East Main Road, given the sight lines, the existing cuts, and the location of the light?
I don't foresee any issues there.
Thank you. That's all I have with this one.
No questions?
Thank you.
I believe that's all I have, subject to the neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Abutters or interested parties that want to speak to this? Could we move the easel so I could see? Thanks. We have any abutters that would like to get up and speak? Raise your right hand. Try to tell the truth.
I do.
Name and address.
Jill Talachi, 10 Borden Farm Road, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. So I'm speaking for some of the Borden Farm residents. We just got knowledge of this plan maybe a week ago. And as aesthetically pleasing the renderings are, we just are asking for a continuance so we can make ourselves more familiar with it and more knowledgeable on what might be going in kind of in our neighborhood and in our backyard. So we're looking for representation to obtain to sort of help us through that process.
That is generally an abnormal request. And I would say that it's been advertised publicly. And that everyone, all abutters have received notification of it. That should have given everybody ample time to come to the town hall and view the records, et cetera. So to come tonight and ask the applicant to put off now for months. I personally think, and I'll let others on the board speak, I just don't think that's right.
If I can also just add to that, we received letters last week. So, and we sent an email earlier this week asking for the continuance. And also some of the residents
Not here.
didn't receive a letter at all.
That I can't help you with.
Mhm.
We have the list of abutters that goes out. The town doesn't mail them, but we do have the list that goes out. We do hear on occasions people say, I didn't get the letter. I mean, we're not the postal service. So I just think it's not fair to the applicant to come tonight. I mean, to say that you've had the information for a week, which means you've had a week's time to review it all.
And we have, but we've been looking for a representation to help us that is more familiar with a lot of the depth that goes into some of the engineering of it.
Okay, I'm not sure what that means, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if you were going to hire representation as a group,
We are.
well, I think you would have already done that. Dependent on the outcome of this hearing, if this were to not be approved, the applicant has the right to challenge our decision in Superior Court. If it were to be a favorable decision, then you as residents, through however means you want, would have the right to challenge our decision in Superior Court as well. So I would think that if you had obtained or hired our representation, that at least that attorney would be here tonight to speak that case. I mean, it's been a week's time. So it would have been different if everybody was notified today.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I respond very quickly?
Absolutely.
First of all, I got very nice emails from Jill, so I understand.
Yeah.
So you know the process. We have to file findings. when we file timely, the town writes the notice. The town sends out the notice to me, sent it out on August first. I had to mail it by August third. It went out on August first. An hour after I got it, he had the affidavit that it was sent. So I understand that maybe the process should be longer, but as I tried to say in the email, we tried to do everything just right, okay? There was actually a concern with, he said one of the neighbors didn't get it, but two, I looked and made sure the addresses were correct. And one of the addresses to Mr. Stone was, because she bought on June 15th, I believe went to Tiverton instead of her. I think she talked to the planning board and said they got it. I talked about that to the Castro today. I said, I don't really want to create that issue. He went down, drove down there at 5 o'clock, met with them, made sure the only person they have had an issue with notice did not have a problem, and met with her and took care of it. So although I appreciate everybody's position, especially with 2 months now going, we've got to try. There's been an awful lot of work to coordinate all the boards to get here tonight.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick question. Yeah, come on. If you have to speak, you have to come up, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Seaman, I have to
Raise my hand.
Yes, please. Raise your right hand.
Mark Sieben, 40 Borden Farm Road.
Thank you.
Okay, we've been living here for 15 months. Our letter was sent to our old address in Tiverton. We never received it. I went into the office to see Aaron, he's shaking his head the other day.
Right.
Where's our letter? And he checked, he says it went to Tiverton. We never received it. So we've had less than a week.
Right.
You know, this is a beautiful plan. I just said, you know, if you check the addresses on people, you know, we have a tax bill. We've been living here in the house 15 months now. Why did they go to Tiverton?
I can't answer that question.
I don't know if the post office knew your old address and didn't know what was on it. I'm just telling you that.
With our tax bill, we're taxed in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I mean,
And my printed labels have your address at 41 Road.
so why did they go to Tiverton? I don't get it.
In fact, yeah, Mr. Seaman,
Yes, sir.
now it's got 28 Ford Farm Road.
That's our old address.
That's what it's got for mailing address.
Now, that may be because we rely on the address he has, not where he lives, but where his tax bill is sent. So that's what the tax office has.
This is what the town provides.
That's where it's sent. Well, I don't know if the town provides, it's really provided on the GIS website.
No, but you mean to come in and check it with the tax record?
Yeah. Okay.
Aaron actually changed, while I went in the office, was it yesterday? And he looked through, it, he goes, yep, Tiverton, Rhode Island. I said, well, can you change that? Because we've been here 15 months now.
Make
so
sure you get your tax bill.
Make sure. That's all. There was just a small glitch there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Seaman. Anyone else? Okay. So before we take a vote, I would like to impose some conditions on this. Condition number 1, that there be no exterior mechanical equipment, including but not limited to things such as HVAC condensing units, exhaust fans, air compressors, and the like. Condition number 2, that items 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the planning board's recommendation are put in place as conditions as well. One is the 30-space parking lot plan. Number 4 is incorporating the maintenance operation plan for permeable surface. Number 5 is the separation of the drive entryways. 6 is incorporating the infrastructure being able to withstand a 100-year storm. Number 7, that there be no further subdivision of lot 32.
That was to assure that the open field in the back stayed an open field in the back for everyone.
Let me continue. Number 3, is per design reviews comments. So I'll start with parking. They're recommending 1 handicap space should be installed in front of each business for a total of 3 spaces for each section. the maximum number of units that no more than 3 business units should utilize the building unless revisiting the board in the future. And I will make a separate thing on use shortly, but they do require the 3 units. Planting, that the driveway entrance keep a minimum of a 15-foot view line sight triangle open at East Main Road for safety purposes. The north property line, plant a mixed variety of evergreen trees instead of massing the arborvitaes. And I'm going to say that the incorporate landscape option A is presented to the board. It was A and B. Condition 4 was any exterior lighting be of the gooseneck type and point 90 degrees downward. And my last condition would be that any change in use from a single use to multi-use for this building must return to the zoning board of review for a modification to the special use permit. That allows us to see what's going in there.
But that's not what the ordinance does with a yes.
I'm just making sure, just a few
So things,
I've placed a condition on it, or I'm proposing a condition, so
can I just comment on the conditions?
absolutely.
There's 2 things first. One is picking the option A, which is for the neighbors. If the neighbors haven't had a lot of time to get together, we're still okay with giving them time to pick. So by you picking A is fine with us, by you picking B is fine with us. But if the neighbors want to consider that and have input on it, we're okay with that too. As long as we don't have to come back, whatever they pick, now A will be the default if it's 2-2, I guess, how's that? But I don't want to leave them short if.
Well, what I
think
don't
that
want to
is
do,
probably
what
the
I
most
also don't want to
important
do is say, okay, whatever, is agreed to by the neighbors, and then all of a sudden, so I'm going with my reason for proposing option A is it screens the neighbors most from anything, including noise, views, sites, anything.
I'm just trying to be polite.
Got it. So those are my proposed conditions.
I think it's, I don't know if we can do, I think it's gonna be tough, the HVAC equipment. I mean, if they have air conditioning, they're gonna have a condensed.
They just gave testimony that there isn't any.
You're not gonna do any.
I think I meant
Have to come back.
that all the stuff in the
screened.
side.
Can we change it to being screened? That it has to be
Says-
screened?
They've given testimony. I mean, you don't have to approve this. They've given testimony. There's not gonna be anything outside.
There's nothing on the roof for sure.
And then I asked the question, well, what about, well, they'll be out, well, now all of a sudden you've got something outside that can make noise. Okay, so if they want it, they can come back and ask for
When
it.
you come back for one, I guess we can do that. We won't.
Exactly,
We've got 8 months to build. I think we'll figure it out.
right, exactly. So those are my proposed conditions. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of imposing these conditions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Vote first or you? Choice. Okay, I'll go first then. All right. So Gary Castro is before this board for tax assessors map 31 lot B2 and commercial district C1. They're asking for a special use permit for the purpose of installing a 9,000 square foot building on a commercial lot. And also a 9-foot side yard variance to the south. The applicant has given a nice presentation, I must say, and I have to say, I am pleasantly pleased by the architecture of design. I will say that. Because what could go there, being commercial, could be exactly like the plaza next door. And I don't mean where this is abutting to. I mean on the other side of Gordon Farm, i.e. the commercial plaza. It's commercial district. That can go there as a matter of right. Okay, so I think the applicant has done a very good job of trying to blend this in with that. I believe that they have met all the special use criteria, which I will run through, which is the desired use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. It will be compatible with neighboring land uses. It's commercial where they're proposing, they're budding commercial, it is commercial. It will not create a nuisance or a hazard in the neighborhood. Adequate protections afforded to the surrounding property by the use of open space and planting. Safe vehicular access and adequate parking are provided for. Control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, and any other objectionable features provided. Sole rights of abutters are provided. And the proposed use will be in conformance with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance of the town. The health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected. I believe it's met that criteria. As far as the dimensional variance, I think the 9 foot is minimal. I think in this case, it does amount to more than a mere inconvenience, only in the fact that the fire department is asking for a larger turning radius. And I get it, you could shorten the building a little bit. That gets into construction costs. Is it even? I mean, we all go by the old 2x4 standard. I don't know. I think it is minimal. It's a budding commercial. The abutting property has not challenged it whatsoever. So my vote is to approve both the dimensional variance of 9 feet and the special use permit. And I will say for anyone in town, there's another one similar to this that people don't even recognize anymore. And that's right at the foot of Quaker Hill, right next to Food Works. There's a whole commercial building there that if you look at the front of it, you kind of don't really realize what goes on behind it. And that, I think abuts some residential property too, I believe. I think it does.
It does.
Anyway,
To the back.
so, Mr. Reposi, your vote.
So I agree with Mr. Knott. I think Mr. Fagan did a great job with the design, great presentation. And I also vote to approve the dimensional variance as well as the special use variance.
Thanks.
Wish you all the luck.
I vote to approve both variances for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
I also vote to approve both variances for reasons stated.
Mr. Harris,
Yeah, I vote to approve the special use permit and the dimensional variance for reasons previously stated.
thank you. This has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you, board. Have a good evening.
Board is going to take a 5-minute recess. Right. Zoning Board of Review is back in session. Next item on the agenda is a petition by Eileen Chernoff of 20 Point Road, map 21, lot 86, seeking a special use permit for substandard lot of record, and also Article 4 for a side yard variance. Mr. Chappelle.
Good evening again. I also promised I'd speak quickly because we're trying.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Believe it or not, the sound back there carries way up here. So if you need to, could you just step out? Thank you very much. God, I'm sorry, Mr. Chappelle. Go
That's
ahead.
right. So I'm here on behalf of the Chernoffs. You should recognize us. We were here. This was the case of the property that is directly across from 15 Point Road. They are the last commercial as opposed to the first residential. They came in almost a year ago to the date asking for a single car garage to be located on the south side of the property that fits in the drawings that you say. They have no garage now. I look to retestify, but the need for a single family garage. Back at that time, a pre-existing non-conforming use, you could expand a pre-existing non-conforming use, but only if you required no variances. And even with that, we had a 5-0 vote on special use permit to allow the expansion and only 3 votes to do the use variance, never mind the dimensional variance. But it was probably the right thing for the world. In order to get back here tonight, I had to go to the council. So these people have been extremely patient while we went to the council with the help of your planning department and changed the law. Your new zoning law is different. If a commercial piece use is in a residential area, you can still only expand it by special use permit if it requires no variances. If it is a residential use in another zone, then special use permit, but the board now specifically with council approval, looking at this project, knows that you can exercise discretion and now do a dimensional variance. So I still need a special use permit because it's the expansion of a building on a non-conforming lot, but you now have the power to give a dimensional variance if you believe we meet the least relief necessary and more than a mere inconvenience. And with that said, I can certainly have her here for questions, but all the drawings are before you. There's a particular, this is the property right across from 15 Point Road. They're all single-family houses up and down the road after really Thrive on that side. They're all pre-existing non-conforming small lots. All but one have side yard setback issues. Most of them already have garages. She's trying to get a one-stall garage. To me, that alone is the least relief necessary. Anybody asking for a two would certainly need a larger variance. What's required in a commercial zone is 15 feet. What she can get is 6 feet. That requires a 9-foot variance. The house, remember, already is only 11 feet away because this garage is takes as much of the wing of the old house as you can get. The house has a step back there with a door. So by locating the garage in front of that door, we didn't have to go 15 feet to the left of the house. We only had to go the 11 feet to the left of the house. And that results in the ultimate building being 6 foot from the property line where 15 feet is required. It is a 9-foot side yard variance to the south. There are no other variances required north, east, or west. There's no lot coverage variances required. There's no use variances required. It's pre-existing. So based on the new council rule, based hopefully on, I think other than Mr. Donovan, everybody was here, but oh, you were here too, on what happened last time. I think we've allowed you to do what you told me you would have liked to do last time. And I can put as much on as you want, but I'm trying to not have neighbors that might not get heard get mad at me.
Do you want to run through the special use criteria?
Sure, we start with H. Is this compatible with the neighborhood?
Yes.
There's residents, it's mixed, and some of those have garages, most of those are garages that are residential.
Correct.
And fits in the comprehensive plan because there provide single family homes.
Yes.
Okay. There is, you're not doing anything to affect the solar rights. This is a one story, small garage that's smaller than the rest of your house. Is that right?
Big enough to get my convertible in.
Not gonna require any traffic or other issues. It's
No.
just gonna allow you to park in, gonna use the same driving patterns on
Correct.
Hummocks Avenue as you do today. Is that right?
Appointment, yes.
Oh. Point Road. Adequate space for fire
Yes,
protection. This doesn't change that. You still
No.
get to the backyard on the other side.
correct.
You pretty much hit most of it.
That's all I have.
You're good. Question, go ahead.
This is the sound right?
No, there's one marked site plan sample.
That's the sample. That comes with the application. I should rip those out. I've done that before.
Okay, that's what.
I noticed that said Berkshire Drive. No.
That's the sample site plan on the website. Yeah.
Now, if you go this way, so you can find it.
Sorry about that.
No, I shouldn't have it attached.
Any questions from the board? I just have to ask for butters or interested parties. Okay, seeing
Sean
none.
said you already had the letter from us. He asked me today if you wanted another letter. I
Right.
said we had the letter from us, sure.
Eileen Chernoff is before the board for tax assessors map 21 lot 86, seeking a special use permit because this is a substandard lot of record. And also a 9 foot to the south yard variance for the purpose of installing a single-family garage. I'll start. So the applicants given testimony that they do meet these special use criteria for substandard lot. So I vote to approve that. A garage is an acceptable accessory use. If you go up and down Point Road, you'll see many a house there that does have garages. I think in this case, to deny does amount to more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve. You had me a convertible. Okay. Mr. Reposa?
I also approve, agree with Mr. Knott and also vote to approve the dimensional and special use permit.
Thank you. Ms. Horowitz?
I vote to approve both variances as for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan?
Yes, I vote to approve both and we'll have we were able to do the one thing with town council to get the change.
Thanks. Mr. Harris?
I also vote to approve your dimensional variance and your special use permit. Wish you luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set?
Thank you.
All righty.
It was a
I'm not gonna ask what kind of convertible. I was just looking at a 62 the other day.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is petition by Looking Upwards and Visiting Earth Health Service for property located at 1184 East Main Road, which is tax assessor's map 58, lot 51. The applicant seeking a special use permit for an office and related medical, psychiatric, and other health services used with an accessory daycare.
Port Chappell again, and I'm going to speak quickly again.
Again,
This one, I hope you're going to find very easy. These are the old Transcom building, Hodges Badge building. This property was owned by visiting nurses. Looking Upwards is purchasing the building. They're here to tell you, but for those of you that don't know a lot of what they do, they provide adult services for the community, including psychological and counseling and things. So you should say to yourself, well, that sounds a lot like visiting nurse, and it does. And visiting nurse came in 1994, received a special use permit that I put in your package. So they don't need anything to move into Looking Upwards, for Looking Upwards to move into visiting nurse. But a component under the same umbrella of Looking Upwards is kinder art. And I always try to say this without insulting the world, but if I put my 3-year-old in daycare, my daughter calls it preschool. If I put my 2-year-old in daycare, we call it daycare. In 1964, when your ordinance was written, there was a daycare and there was a school. A school under accessory use Article 16 is allowed as a matter of right under any business that's allowed. So we don't need anything to have a school there. But to the extent newborns and infants are daycare, we need a special use permit to have a daycare as an accessory use to the pre-existing approved use of psychological counseling and community services. And it really is that easy. There is no building going on. Everything that's inside the building, there are no building permits for the outside or anything. As you know from the many daycares we've been in front of you on, the state regulates how many children can be there. The state regulates, depending on the age of the children, what your staffing requirements are. And your parking ordinance tells us how many parking spots for offices and how many parking spots for daycare. We have a plethora of parking because visiting nurse had 309 employees in its heyday, with 90 full-time being there and the rest in and out during the day. So traffic and parking is very easy for us to meet. As you also know, outside play areas are part of the licensing process. We located them on your plan. They're not structures, but they're fenced-in areas for safety. There's plenty of room there. So again, there's no variances whatsoever. It's a special use permit to the extent that kinder art is daycare for small children as opposed to school. Now, I promise if you read the website, it calls themselves a school with a very nice curriculum for imagination. And they're actually, as you know, very renowned and very famous. So my apologies for calling them daycare, but I think before someone spends the amount of money and before a bank writes a check, they want to say, I don't care what the world calls it. Can you go get me a certificate from the zoning board? And that's really all we have. I do have Spence McComb, the architect that drew the plan for us and can talk to us. And I have two representatives from Looking Upwards if you have any questions. But we meet all criteria.
I don't. Does anyone from the board? I mean, my first question, when you can ask Aaron, as I walked in, I said, why is this before us?
I figured it was going to take me longer to explain why I had to get it than.
Right,
than
exactly.
what I needed.
You know, I personally thought it was pretty clear cut and dry, and I personally didn't know why they were here, but I understand it. So unless they want to add something, it's up to
I
them.
would say Mr. Nick King is here and introduced himself. He owns the property in the back. One of the interesting issues on this site is, there's a light. But the light, visiting nurse has a driveway onto Main Road, which is very safe sometimes of the day. And they have the ability to use the light through an easement. Mr. King was very nice, introduced himself, and was gonna sit down and talk to them. Because he's running a business there that has, forklifts and things, and he wants to make sure that, as he did with visiting nurses, he coordinates a plan so that everybody understands this is not a freeway.
Right.
This is through a parking lot with an easement, and we all need to be safe and cautious, and we've pledged to certainly make sure we talk to all of our employees and people to make sure they're aware of how this will work.
Okay.
He can say what he wants, but I wanted to try to capture that for him. How'd I do?
I do have to swear you in. Swear to tell the truth,
I do.
full name and address.
Nick King representing 1170 East Main Road LLC. We purchased the property from Hodges Badge. I was in front of the board for a special use permit a while back. I had some discussions at that time with visiting nurses. They had some complaints about how Hodges had been using the easement and forklifts and trucks, and they were concerned about traffic, and they put some conditions on, asked for some conditions as part of our approval of special use permit for one of the businesses that is leasing from us. And that building is split into 5 units, and I'm sure over time, those units are going to change over, and I'll be back in front of this board asking for special use permits for the next use. And really what I want to talk to them about is I'm not in opposition to the use. I think it's similar enough to visiting nurses, a little concerned about traffic with the daycare. Hope I can work with the executive director to make a plan that's good for everybody. I would just be upset, I guess, if I came here next time and said, I need a special use permit for a distribution company, similar to other things going on. And they came and said, well, we have traffic that comes through there. We don't want trucks there. We want conditions put on you for how you're going to use your property. So really I came tonight to build a relationship with them where we can just work together and not bring it to the board. But I thought I should at least come and tell you my concerns. And I have the executive director's contact, so I'll be in touch with her, and I wish them well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any abutters or interested parties that want to speak to this? Yes, sir. Want to come up?
Hi.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
Yes, I do.
Full name and address.
Kevin Souza, and I am at 1216 East Main Road. So that is our address, but our property is set back, so the visiting nurse parking lot is our abutting neighbor to the side of us. So my wife and I have had no issues with visiting nurses there, and we're looking forward to the new business there. No issues with having, except that we're just hoping that it could be put into the record that someone could be, well, I'll explain the conditions of what happened before. Sometime in the past, we've had alarms go off at 2 a.m. in the morning. And the Portsmouth Police Department were notified. They came, and the biggest issue was they had no contact information who to get there to reset the alarms. This went on till like 5 a.m. in the morning. And, I credit the police for their diligence. They finally did get someone there. But it was very disturbing for us, as you can understand. And so we just, moving forward, would hope that there would be contact information connected with the Portsmouth Police Department, should anything happen in the middle of the night, that there is someone in a timely manner that could get there to resolve that problem. That's really easy for us to do. We can put it on as a condition, the prior to occupancy. we'll turn over contact information for the fire and, that would be great. That, other than that, we, great. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Okay.
Um, let's write this down. Okay, so what I'm proposing is a condition that says no external audible alarms. Audible, with the exception of fire life safety.
I don't know that we have any, I don't know what the building has now.
That would be the only thing, I
Yeah.
mean, I could see.
I think it's more not that it was malfunctioning, but I understand you need a contact person or it can go on
Yeah,
a phone night.
along with that would be
Normally
contact
required.
info would be provided to the police department, but I get the external audible alarm thing. Cause my parents used to have one. Okay, anything else, Mr. Chappelle, before we move? All right,
No,
I'm gonna
no, thank you.
propose condition on this, that if approved, that there be no external audible alarms with the exception of alarms associated with fire life safety equipment. And that any alarm system, the contact info must be provided to the Portsmouth Police Department. Could I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, looking upwards is before the board for tax assessors map 58, lot 51. Seeking to put in a preschool daycare as an accessory use along with related medical, psychiatric, and other health services. Applicants given testimony that they do meet special use criteria. The Chairman personally does not understand really why they're here, but as an abundance of caution, they are, and I appreciate that. So my vote's to approve the special use permit. Mr. Reposa.
I also vote to approve the special use permit for reasons stated by Mr. Knott.
Thank you. Ms. Horowitz.
I vote to approve the special use permit for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan,
And I vote to approve the special use permit for the reasons stated by Mr. Knox.
Mr. Harris.
I also vote to approve the special use permit for reasons previously stated.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Are you done for the night?
I am.
Good luck over there.
Okay, next item on the agenda is petition by Jeff and Molly Goldman for tax assessors map 62 lot 56. Seeking a dimensional variance to construct a fence enclosing a swimming pool under 6 feet.
Hi,
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for trees.
Jeff Goldman, 173 Adams Drive, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
And swear to tell the truth.
I do. Molly Goldman, 173 Adams Drive. here in Portsmouth.
Go ahead, Mr. Golden.
I hope we haven't jinxed it by not having Mr. Chappelle represent us tonight, but we'll see how we do. So our request is very straightforward. In 2018, 2019, Rhode Island and all of its municipalities adopted the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. However, Portsmouth has yet to update its earlier zoning ordinance to align with these newer state regulations. What we're requesting actually goes above and beyond what is required by Rhode Island state law for pool fences. And ultimately, what we're asking is to be given approval to be in accordance with the current state law regarding pool barriers rather than the older town zoning ordinance that requires 6-foot barrier around pools. The current law requires a 4-foot barrier for all pools and spas that do not have safety covers and makes pools that have approved safety covers exempt from any barrier requirement. We have an approved safety cover, but intend to install a fence anyway. What we proposed was to have essentially 2 sides of our fence at 6 feet in height and 2 at 4 feet in height, and to completely enclose the pool. After speaking with our neighbors who share the property line, we're considering that a 4-foot fence in that northwest section may be preferable to the 6-foot. Anyway, until the zoning code is updated, we will be in conflict with the town inspectors and therefore requesting the variance in the meantime. In the event that we may want to change that proposed 6-foot section to a 4-foot section, it would be ideal for inspection purposes, excuse me, that we receive an official statement from the board that we are to meet the state pool code standards. We've been informed by the Portsmouth planning staff that they will be recommending that the zoning ordinance be updated to reflect the adoption of the 2019 state law. And because of this, we'll recommend today that our request for variance be approved by the board. And in closing, we just think it might be worth mentioning here that for community comparisons, that Middletown and the surrounding municipalities have already updated their codes and allow 4-foot fences for pools without safety covers. And they refer people on their town websites to the 2019 Rhode Island Swimming Pool and Spa Code for reference to the requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Quick question for you. So I'm looking at the drawing and I see, and I just want to reconfirm this. You're proposing a 6-foot fence on 3 quadrants, let's say.
Right.
However, you may want to drop that 4-foot with the neighbors,
Just that section that adjoins the property line.
just that section.
Yeah, it's sort of I think it's the shortest one. on
Yeah,
that
it's the
map.
shortest one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Just for inspection purposes, again,
Yeah.
if anything should change on that, I just don't know how this would work. Would we be held exactly to the 6 foot on the others? And so could we just,
Why don't we do
request-
this?
Yeah.
Easiest way I think to handle this is allow you to request to modify your petition to show that you're requesting that section be 4 foot.
Okay.
You can always go bigger.
Right.
You know what I mean? This way, if you decide to drop it to the 4 foot and it should get approved, well, then you're all set.
Okay.
Okay, versus having that sort of cloudy area. So would you like to make a request to modify your petition?
Please.
Okay, the applicant has made a request to modify their petition where now on their drawing where it says proposed fence is a short section. Originally, they had 6 foot in height. They now want to reduce that to 4 foot in height. Could I have a motion to allow the applicant to modify their petition?
So.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Aaron, I know we had this discussion, but let's have it publicly. You guys are rewriting the ordinance.
Correct.
When you do that, is it the intent of the town to comply with the state building code and drop that to a 4 foot?
That's correct, yes.
That's
We're
what
we're planning on doing
With
that.
the new one.
What's the timeline of that? The reason why I ask is because I know fences are not cheap, so
Right.
It's really not what they want, maybe. I've been in similar same spot.
We're working on an RFP for the zoning ordinance, so within the next 2 years, it's gonna be modified. We just need to write the RFP and get a consultant, and then we're gonna rework the whole thing.
Yeah,
We're
so.
gonna have
Don't forget, they couldn't do anything till the comp plan was done.
No,
Yeah,
agreed, so I'm just saying,
yeah,
their
right.
plan is.
Okay.
I guess I don't want to muddy the water, but.
Well, I do appreciate it. And I guess then maybe it's most sensible to just request a 4-foot variance for the entire thing. We are definitely doing a 6-foot privacy anyway, but if it's going to be altered to 4 feet, is that
Okay.
a simpler way to do this?
So the
believe
applicant
so.
now is requesting to modify it. If
Tell me you want it.
Where they-
Yes, you might
where
as well
they-
just.
are only asking for, they're asking for a 2-foot height variance and allow a 4-foot fence around the perimeter of the pool. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So.
So moved. Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Makes it so much easier.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I just have to ask for butters or interested parties. Are there any that want to speak to this? Seeing none, Jeff and Molly Goldman are before the board for tax assessors map 62 lot 56. Zone residential R40. They're seeking a dimensional variance to construct a fence enclosing their swimming pool under 6 feet. The applicant's given testimony that they've done their research. It complies with the state building code and actually codes of abutting towns. In speaking with the zoning enforcement officer, he agrees that the towns, as they move to the future to modify or to rewrite the zoning ordinance, they will incorporate the state building codes. So my belief is if that's gonna happen, then to Mr. Propose's point, fences are not cheap. So I think for what is going to become inevitable, I think in this case amounts to more than a mere inconvenience. So I vote to approve. Mr. Reposa,
So I've been in
a similar situation?
situation. And we'll elaborate on that, but I've got the same cover and I kind of applaud, I don't know, some people come for no fence and I would. I don't know if that's allowed, but I think the fence 4 foot is reasonable. They don't shut all the time. Sometimes they get the pool too hot and we don't shut it and, you know, I think it's a cool feature we have young kids, but. I approve. That was my long-winded.
That was fine.
approval. So, good luck and approve.
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Mr. Donovan.
I also vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I also vote to approve.
I always see the upstate.
Been approved. By the way, Mr. Goldman, I understand you had a conversation with our zone enforcement officer. We do have 2 seats.
I am considering.
Just letting you know.
All right, well, thanks. I was hoping to get up there tonight, but I didn't need to, so.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're all set. All right, next item on the agenda is the petition of P. Scott Thomas, applicant and Lynn. Oh, I'm not even going to attempt it. How do I attempt that one? Pizarka? Pizarka, I was close. For property located at 1239 Anthony Road, being tax assessors map 1 lot 21, seeking a special use permit. Article 7A1 and a dimensional variance. Construct a deck and stairs over a concrete patio on a substandard lot of record. The deck is an intensification of use. There's no net increase in lot coverage nor increase of existing setback encroachment. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
Philip Scott Thomas, 904 Lake Road, Tiverton, Rhode Island.
Okay. Explain to us
So-
what you'd like to do.
I as well do not have Mr. Chappelle here with me, so it's probably won't be so eloquent here, but Ms. Pizarka would like to take it and construct a deck out the back. She right now has a cracked and deteriorating concrete slab. And she'd like to have it to where she walks out the back door and has her chairs up on a nice deck towards the water.
So not seeking any setbacks or anything,
Nope,
no increase in lot coverage.
nope.
But you still have to have a variance request of 10%.
Yes,
Yep. And the whole purpose, so is the deck going just over the patio?
it's only gonna go, it's only about 3 feet if that off the concrete patio. The concrete patio is already there.
Right.
And we're just gonna be anchoring it to the patio, 9 footers.
Again, some of these ones I don't know why they hang, but I get it. Oh, yeah. Gotcha. See the color pictures. So I take it she'll just come out the back now instead of onto the stairs, just right out onto the deck.
Yes, and those concretes, that concrete stoop on the back actually
Yeah.
has a very short top level there that she had a friend that already fell off that once and she has also tripped down it. And she just, you know, it's, doesn't work well. It's not safe. It's not up to code.
Good. Yeah, okay. So I have to run through the special use criteria, so let me just get to that section of my ordinance. Here we go. So. I have to run through this, but I will. The desired use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. Will be compatible with neighboring land uses.
Yes, it will.
Will create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood.
No, it won't.
Adequate protection is afforded surrounding properties by the use of open space and planting.
Yes,
Safe vehicular access and adequate parking are provided.
yes,
Control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, and any other objectionable features provided.
there's no.
Solar rights of the abutters are provided for.
No.
Proposed use will be in conformance with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan,
Yes,
and the health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected.
yes,
Okay, so there's basically that, and then a 10.1% lot coverage variance request. which is no more than kind of what exists.
It's just an intensification of use,
Right,
so it's,
that's all.
yeah.
Okay. I just have to ask for butters and interested parties unless anybody's got any questions. I didn't think so. Any butters to this? No? P. Scott Thomas is before the board for tax assessors map 1 lot 21. Seeking a special use permit. And a 10.1% lot coverage variance, basically an intensification of use. The lot coverage pre-exists. The applicant's given testimony that they want to build a deck simply over the existing concrete patio. One of the items pointed out by the applicant was the fact that the current stairs leading from the house has a very short stoop on the top, which when looking at the photos provided, it does look to be a little bit on the unsafe side. So that being said, I vote to approve both the special use criteria and the lot coverage variance. I think it amounts to more than a mere inconvenience and certainly is a safety hazard with that. So my vote's to approve. Mr. Reposa?
I also vote to approve both the special use and the dimensional variance.
Reasons.
Reasons stated by Mr. Knott.
Thank you. Ms. Horowitz?
I vote to approve both variances for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan?
I vote to approve both the special use permit and the dimensional variance for reasons previously stated.
Mr. Harris?
I vote to approve both the dimensional variance and the special use permit for the reason previously stated.
Thank you very much.
You're all set.
Folks, thank you for your service. I appreciate your help.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a petition by Matt Chase, applicant and Integrity Holdings, for property located at 726 Park Avenue, which is tax assessors map 21 lot 84. It's zone commercial. Applicant is seeking a special use permit. Construct an attached garage to an existing structure altering a non-conforming use, similar to what we just heard. Raise your right hand.
Swear to tell the
Tell the
truth.
truth.
Matt Chase, 21 Peckham Ave, Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay, Mr. Chase.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit, so just bear with that. On behalf of Integrity Holdings and my client Christine Kidd, this is in support of a special use permit for the proposed redevelopment at 726 Park Ave. Basically, the property that's there now that she currently owns has 2 separate buildings on it.
Right.
One of the buildings is, both buildings have 4 single units in them.
Right.
She's demolishing one of them, turning it into an owner occupied duplex. We need the special use permit currently because there is no garage currently there. And duplex that she's trying to build, she wants to have a garage each side.
Right.
So that's the basic general gist of what I'm looking to do.
So no dimensional variance.
No
is
dimensional
required.
required, correct?
No lot coverage variance.
No problem with
required.
lot coverage. So some of the things I'd like the board to consider when hopefully granting this is desired use of the garage is for the storage of the primary motor vehicle and other items that are usually stored inside of garages. That is, you would be parking your car inside a garage. 2, several properties within a 200-foot radius have garages, so it will blend in easily with the neighborhood. 3, the addition of the garage to the subject property will provide an attractive place for the owner to keep their possessions and stuff inside the garage and out of visibility. 4, the architecture of the garage per the current plan provides a place and a location for future gardens and planting beds around the garden to help beautify the neighborhood. 5, the current property has abundant parking. The proposed parking garages will use some of the same paved footprint. There would be no additional water runoff problems and would diminish the number of vehicles parked outside on the property. 6, the garage by itself would diminish noise in the neighborhood with vehicles starting up in the morning. Kind of just made that up a little bit, but it seems like it'd be a reason 8, I'm sorry, 7, the garage roof is very low and low sloped, would have no bearing on anybody else's solar rights. And that's it.
Um. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
What is the building doing just? So you're demolishing one of the buildings?
Correct. One of the buildings, so the 2 buildings are identical right now.
So that one you can.
Yep, I can,
Let me see if I can-
One on the water side.
So that one.
no, so there, that is one building. And then if you look through here, this.
Aaron, you want to bring it up on the screen?
It's superimposed, so it's 20 foot by 100 foot building, these 2 are duplicate buildings.
So these are staying and these are just being.
So there's one here and one there currently, and we're building right on top of it.
Okay, thank you.
I can probably do one better if you want. There we go, sir.
Yeah, no. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Just have to ask for butters or interested parties and. Sure. I have to re-swear you in. Swear to tell the truth. Full name and address.
Eileen Chernoff, 20 Point Road. Butter. We are curious as to how high the garage is gonna be, and what's that you're gonna block the karaoke noise.
Could you speak up to the microphone?
We're hoping that the garage is going to be very high to block the karaoke noise on Thursday nights.
Unfortunately, it's not gonna be, the roof of the house will actually be taller than the roof on the garage.
Is the house or
Only
2 duplex, is that gonna change as it
Only,
is now?
only slightly taller than the,
Have you seen the drawings?
Yeah, but we weren't sure, we couldn't figure.
Aaron, can you
up there.
pull it up? So,
Elevations.
yeah. There we go. Which one?
Um,
How about the one that faces the road? There we go.
So there's the garage.
Yeah.
That's the original footprint of the house that's there.
And that's staying the same?
That's staying the same. Actually, it's coming in here 3 feet. But this is we're looking for the special use permit for here.
Okay.
And so the roof to this is just slightly below the roof on this, which is basically the same thing that it's gonna be in that.
So you
So
wouldn't
it's not
consider,
gonna-
you wouldn't
so wouldn't
consider
consider
going
going
that
taller?
way 3 feet?
No, it's block the sound
Just
side. I can't.
Block the tiki bar.
Sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Matt Chase, applicant and Integrity Holdings owner for property located at 726 is seeking a special use permit to construct an attached garage to an existing structure altering a non-conforming use. They're not asking for any variances whatsoever. He's given testimony through his thing that he does meet the special use criteria under Article 7. So, Mr. Reposa.
Vote to approve
Special use permit,
both the special use permit
that's all there is.
and just the special use.
Ms. Horowitz.
I'm going to approve the special use permit.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
I vote to approve the special use permit. From the drawing, it looks like it's going to enhance the appearance of the locations.
Yeah. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I vote to approve the special use permit. I think you meet the criteria and I'm in favor of it.
Chairman votes to approve it as well. I mean, as far as I remember those 2 units being there. In fact, I remember one of the original owners.
I think it says they showed up on the tax roll somewhere in the sixties, early sixties.
That'd be about right.
62, I think it said.
So the question is there any future discussion of doing something with the other building or no, not right now?
Not that I've heard of.
All right. Well, you've been approved. All right.
Thank you for your service.
Nice job.
Yes, have a good night. Moving on. Let's see, next item is a petition by A Bailey's LLC. Applicant owner of property located at 038 Fairview Avenue, Prudence Island. Being tax assessors map 77 lot 63. The applicant seeking a special use permit. And dimensional variance to expand the existing structure and add a porch on a substandard lot of record. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for taking us. I know we're on the home stretch here. My name is Mark Hartman. I'm an associate attorney at Anthony DeSisto Law Associates. That's in East Providence.
What's your last name?
Hartman,
Please spell that.
Hartmann.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Chair. I'm here tonight with our clients, Mr. and Mrs. Robertson. They have property on Prudence Islands, and they are seeking a special use permit and dimensional variance to construct additions onto an existing home, which is on a pre-existing substandard lot of record. As we've seen in some of the applications tonight, the reason for the special use permit is solely because of the expansion of a nonconformity. And the expansion here is very minimal. It's a bump out to provide an area for eating in a small house. It's a very small area. And there will also be a modest porch put onto the front of the property. Now, I'm not going to do too much talking. I'd like to ask Mrs. Robertson to provide some testimony on what the Robertsons are seeking to do with their property and why they're seeking to do it.
We swear her in. Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Full name and address for.
Jean Robertson, 536 Fall River Avenue, Seekonk, Massachusetts.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the lot was platted in the 1920s and it's undersized for its current zoning. The existing structure has been in its current place for 63 years. And it's time to bring it to modern standards and codes. We've owned the property for almost 5 years and we're not getting any younger. We'd like to enjoy it. But in its current state, we really are not able to. Many of our neighbors have been rooting for us. They're excited that we're improving the property. Many have commented to us that we are increasing the value of the surrounding neighborhood. Our main goal is to add a front porch so that we have some area, modest 13-foot wide, which is the width of the house, by 7 feet deep. To allow some area outside that has cover. We don't really have any trees. So we would like to have an area sheltered from the sun and still be outside. We also have a very tiny kitchen with not really enough space for a dining table. So we want to bump out 4 feet from the house with a depth of 8 feet in order to have a little, basically a booth with a dining table in it. We are asking for something that, we think is modest as we could do it, but we're also really concerned with making something that looks a lot better than what we ended up purchasing. So we're hoping to really have something that's aesthetically pleasing. In addition, we have an older shed on the property that we intend to remove. So we're taking some away and we're adding a little.
And Mrs. Robertson, if I may, the existing shed that you're taking away, is that going to be replaced by a different shed?
No, we have a newer shed on the property, but it's in a completely different spot.
And other than the changes that you've just discussed, would the footprint of the existing home change?
No.
I have 2 more questions for you. I'm going to try to keep it short. one of the standards that we have to meet here is whether this is in conformance with the general character of the surrounding area. In this neighborhood, are the houses about the same size as the existing house, smaller, larger?
We're probably the smallest house, although I think there's one other cottage that's really tiny in the neighborhood, but we're on the small end of the spectrum, but you know, it's Prudence Island. There's a whole variety. There's some brand new big houses that have been built recently and a lot of smaller cottages as well. We're
Excellent.
smaller than our neighbors though.
Excellent. And my last question for you is, I know that this is an older home and it's on, it was on a cesspool. Is it now on septic?
Yes, when we first purchased it, the first thing that we did was we had a new septic design and we had that put in immediately. We haven't been able to actually use it yet, but it's there. Yeah. So we also upgraded the electric service. You know, we permitted new electric. We're trying to bring everything up to current code.
Excellent, Mrs. Robertson. And if the board will allow me, I would like to make myself available as well as Mrs. Robertson and Mr. Robertson. Is any questions the board has? And if I could just reserve a little bit of time after that to go through the variances, we have to meet the dimensional variance and the special use permit.
So your property's not too far from Homestead,
It's in the Homestead plat, yes.
right where it is.
Okay.
Your childhood over there.
Oh, really?
In that area. So I know that, and you're probably one of the last few summer cottages left.
Yes, yes. In fact, many of our neighbors are year rounders now.
Yes, I mean, back in the day, there were only probably 15 people who lived on that island all year round. Yeah, we've seen come before this board many a time that you can't do anything over there without some sort of variance. And most people have expanded their homes similar to what you're requesting, let alone built some big homes over there. Is the house currently on piers still? Or is there a crawl space or?
There's a concrete foundation and then there are also piers with concrete, I guess, sonotubes.
Yeah.
And then 6x6 posts.
And what you're proposing is not any different than people around you have already done, or as you drive around the island, what people have modified some of those cottages to.
That's true.
In your opinion, almost every lot over there is pretty much a substandard lot of record, correct?
Yes, when they were platted, they were all platted at 75 feet by 75 feet. Over the years, some people have combined a couple of lots, but
Right.
most of them are still 75 by 75.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd just like to quickly run through the relevant standards.
Absolutely.
Under the dimensional variance, Article 6, Section D5, there's a question of the hardship from which the applicant seeks to relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land. As you heard testimony tonight, this is a substandard lot of record, and almost anything that you build on this property would be impossible without some sort of relief. To the second part of that standard, that the hardship is not the result of the prior action of the applicant and does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial gain. As you've heard tonight, this property has existed in this way for nearly 60 years, and the applicants bought the property in that state. To the third standard, that the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purposes of the zoning ordinance or comprehensive plan. As you heard, this neighborhood is made up of mostly substandard lots of record and have very small dwellings on those lots. So the addition of a small bump out and a modest porch will not affect the surrounding area. The relief, the next standard, the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. As you heard Mrs. Robertson testify to tonight, they finely tuned their additions to just what they need and nothing more. The next standard is whether the relief granted is in accordance with the definition of variance provided in the ordinance. Tonight, that really goes to several standards we've discussed, and it is in accordance with the definition of variance. The last and final standard is whether the granting the dimensional variance, that the hardship suffered by the owner of the subject property, if the dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience. As you heard, it'd be difficult to live in this property without some sort of additional space for outdoors seating and for dining accommodations. That goes to the dimensional variance, and I quickly like to go over the standards for the special use permit. That's under Article 7, Section A1C. The first, the desired use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. As you heard, this is going to be a residential use that's not changing from what it's been for 60 years. So it will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. It will be compatible with the neighboring land uses. That's also based on the same standard as above. Third, it will not create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood. Again, it's a small and bump out and modest porch. That's not going to create a nuisance, particularly because it's residential use in the neighborhood, and this is a residential use. Adequate protection is afforded to the surrounding property by use of the open space and planting. Again, this property has been in this manner for 60 years. The Robertsons really are not changing anything. The next standard, safe vehicular access and adequate parking are provided. The Robertsons, although the testimony wasn't presented tonight, are using a car currently to get to the property, but eventually, if I'm correct, plan to use a golf cart once they make their home there. And when they do park, they park on the property itself. Control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, and any other objectionable features is provided. Again, this is really not changing from the use that it's been, so that's not a concern. So solar rights of abutters are provided for. I believe there is going to be a slight increase in the size of the height. Is that correct, Mrs. Robertson?
Yes, right now the ceilings are 7 feet high. The current code is 8. We're going to 8, and we have a very low pitched roof. It's a 512 pitch. So where our overall height would be about 16 feet.
Hey, Mrs. Robertson, would you say that
And
would,
that's from ground. That's not from the height of the building.
would you say that would affect the solar rights of neighboring properties?
No.
The next standard, the proposed special use will be in conformance with the purposes and intent of the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. As we stated with the dimensional variance, this is very much in conformance. Additionally, it complies with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan talks about rehabilitation of Prudence Island, areas on Prudence Island. And this is exactly what the Robertsons are going to do here. They're rehabilitating the property, putting in new electric, putting in septic, and beautifying it with a porch. And generally, I think that boards around the state appreciate when porches are put in, as it's considered to be a benefit to the community, bringing neighbors together and so forth. The next standard, the health and safety and welfare of the community are protected. Again, this is similar to the control of noise, smoke, odors, and lighting. It's not changing. The property is not changing significantly since it's been first built. So that will not be a concern. And with that, I would like to conclude our presentation. If the board has any additional questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Ask for butters or interested parties. Yeah, I'll take the latter, but I do have, want to come up one, unless you're, yeah. Thank you. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address.
I'm Steve McIntosh, 2301 East Main Road here in Portsmouth, and 032 Fairview Avenue in Prudence Island.
Yes, sir.
First, I take exception to the characterization of the existing cottage. It's actually a 10-foot by 32-foot trailer that was grandfathered in, that's no longer allowed in R20 areas. So it's 320 square feet. It was previously, within the past few months, expanded with open walls, no roof or ceiling, to 13.5 feet by 34 feet.
We have pictures of it.
Yeah, without any building permits, survey, or because there's no survey, no request for variance. So it's already added to the 320 square feet, 112 square feet. The requested open front porch is actually covered. And that's a 7 foot by 13.5 foot porch. So an additional 121 square feet. The dining room bump out and I think a vestibule for a side entrance are adding somewhere between 32 and 40 square feet. So when you add all that up, in addition to the 320 square feet that is existing, it's an additional 273 square feet. So it's actually adding 85% to the footprint of the building.
They're actually stating in their application that their current is 683 square feet. Their current is at 683 square feet.
That's
Not their
including,
proposed.
that's including 2 sheds.
That is correct. So.
But the footprint of the actual building itself is it's not a modest increase. It's actually,
They're saying their current, the building alone is 460 square feet.
it's actually a 10 foot by 32 foot trailer that they've started to build around, but it's not enclosed or finished. And that work was done unpermitted.
Okay, I can't. I mean, are you sure it was unpermitted?
Yes,
They haven't been cited by the,
yes.
they've been cited by the building department? They haven't. Okay,
I believe they were told to stop working and get a survey.
wow, there is.
The survey says the existing house is 360 square feet.
And it's dated July 18th this
Yep.
year.
Mount Hope Engineering. So they have a survey.
Well, they do now, but we're told previous to that in June to stop working.
Okay, but who told them? Because there's nothing been filed in the building inspector's office that the building inspector told them or gave a cease and desist. So that's.
How he did his paperwork, I can't respond to.
Right, so that's why I understand you're saying that they were told, but I don't have anything that shows me they were told or cited or anything of that nature, if you will. We do have a survey. You stated that they were told to get a survey. We do have a survey. And it validates all the information on their application.
Would stud walls that are sheathed and not finished and no roof constitute an existing cottage?
Say that again?
There's a 10 foot by 32 foot trailer.
Right,
On 3 sides of it, there are stud walls
okay,
with sheathing on
Right.
some of it,
okay.
but it's not enclosed, it's not finished.
It would be considered a structure. It's considered a structure.
Okay. So for the lot coverage setback comparison, the dimensions given on that are not accurate.
Okay, okay, do you have a certified survey there? I've got one here that validates the setbacks. It's stamped by an engineer. Do you have something different?
Well, they say on the site plan and the lot coverage.
No, what I'm asking is, you're saying that the setbacks are different than what they're asking.
No, our setbacks, when they say that by granting the variance, it'll be average of the abutters in the neighborhood.
No, that's not correct. That's not correct.
Okay.
So I'm trying to understand what you're, it's quite apparent you're opposed to it, but I'm not getting, and maybe it's just me, I'll ask some members, but I'm not getting what the opposition is.
Well, the building that we purchased our house just a little under 2 years ago.
Okay,
We purchased it with the existing 10-foot by 32-foot trailer there,
right,
which we had heard was going to be sheathed and just enclosed to look nicer. Now it's gone from 32 feet to 41 feet. The roof line has gone from about 8 feet to about 13 feet, the full length of the 41 feet. It's obstructing our views.
okay, first of all, I gotta stop you there. Views are not rights at all. The board cannot even consider views.
Okay.
At all. In our decision, they are not rights, okay? If I'm also to understand it correctly, when you purchased your home, you purchased it with hearsay that nothing could happen there.
No, not really. It didn't bother us that what was existing was there. So
Right.
beautification of the neighborhood was not something that went into our decision to purchase the property.
Okay,
So it's not really a benefit to us to, I feel that it's decreasing our property value, again,
in what respect?
by reducing the views that were there when we bought it.
Again-
I understand that
Again,
that's not a,
views are not considered a
Okay.
right at all, so there's nothing we can do about that. If somebody wanted to build something on that and met the setbacks and wanted to go 34 feet in height, they could.
okay. Well, it's not meeting the setbacks. One of the variance requests is for 1.5 feet. But the back end of the trailer is actually closer to our property line than that. So the variance requested is less
But-
than what is actually needed.
But that's based on what? And if you look, it's at an angle, so that's not correct. Again, I'm going by the survey plan.
But
Missing something, so.
the
I agree.
The southwest corner of the trailer is 11 feet from the property. But they're saying that they want 1.5 feet variance because it's 13.5 feet from the property.
Yeah,
They're
but
saying-
They're doing the addition, it's 13. At the rear, it's 11 feet.
And
The
it's,
rear, but where
it's
they're
not
doing the
square.
addition, It's 13 feet, that's shown on the survey.
Right.
But the addition is part of the 3.5 feet that they bumped out. That was never permitted. They did that without any
But
permit.
We can't comment on that because it never came before that. That's a building department issue. If they did something, we can
It's
only
not existing.
vote on what we see here. So we can only vote on this existing survey.
It is,
Using that
it is by,
information.
I'm sorry, I haven't.
You haven't been sworn in. Thank you. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth. Name and address.
Jennifer McIntosh, 2301 East Main Road, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, 032 Fairview Ave in Prince County. There was no plans online for Portsmouth, so we could see what was happening. We live right next door to the Robertsons. When we met them, they did not tell us that they were moving an existing shed to the back, or to the side of their property. They moved it on top of our property. You can see by the survey that they moved the shed on top of our property by 1.5 feet.
If that's,
That's what
if
I'm saying.
that's considered the rear of their property,
It's a side of their property.
they're on a corner lot.
yeah,
That's not the.
the shed that is going to be apparently removed was not there originally and was moved onto our property.
Okay,
That's indicated on the.
it's indicated that the shed to be removed, and it's indicated on the survey that part of it is over the property line.
Right.
And it's also indicated on the plan, shed to be removed. So they're going to remove it.
Well, there hasn't been any discussion with them about that and
I'm just going again by the application, by the survey. the survey substantiates what you said, the shed was part on your property. It shows it, and it's noted shed to be removed.
Yeah, only there when they moved it there. About a year ago.
So the reason why we're concerned about that is that happened without any talking of this was going to happen. And they traveled on other properties to be
Okay.
able to pop that in there.
That's all
Unfortunately,
considered
we did-
civil issues.
It is, and then they started to build out from the trailer unpermitted work, and we didn't know what was happening. So we came to town hall and we looked it up, and there was no permit cited. We talked to the building inspectors, and they said, oh, we're coming over there, and we're talking to them. Then they asked them to get a survey, because they were doing this work without a survey. It was at that time that they got the survey and realized that when we were telling them, please stop taking care of a tree that was on our property, they said, oh, no, it's our property. That.
Okay,
is
so
us
it's been surveyed.
At our request. Please
Yeah, but it's
stop.
been surveyed at your request, but at their expense.
So, yes, I
Um,
did do that. However, what they did build on, that was never talked to, that we were under the.
Okay, to Ms. Horowitz's thing, that is
For this
strictly,
variance, they were asking for the least relief. What is the reason why they want to do that? It's because they're older and they want to have a larger dining area. What was the reason why they expanded out 3.5 feet, breaking any assessments, stopping it? from
again,
being-
that's strictly, there's nothing on file that shows they violated anything
It-
at all.
It is closer than.
There's nothing, you're stating that they did many things illegally, and it's quite possible, but the board can't take that into consideration because we have no facts. We have nothing from, and we've seen it before where we'll have a violation from the building department, but there's no violation that says they did anything wrong. That's what we're confronted with. And you know, to validate what you said, again, I'm gonna go back to what I said a couple minutes ago, where it says, well, they put the shed over on our property, they moved it back there, and it's like, yes, they did. And their survey shows it, and it says they're going to remove it. So
Right, okay.
I guess your argument is more with the building department with, why didn't you cite that?
Because we thought that was the normal process, is that they would get a permit and there would be plans shown, and this is what.
Well, they haven't got a permit yet, because that's why they're here, and that's why we have this. So, but they haven't been cited for anything. We've seen many petitions come before us where the applicant has been cited, and now they come for the variance. There's nothing in the files that show they've been cited at all. It's like it's no different than going to court and saying somebody said this, and you know,
Well, I'm telling the truth.
I understand that.
We're trying to understand what they're doing. So when they first applied for a permit, there were not plans for any of this expansion. It was talking about asking for the 3 feet bump out. So it's not a small amount that they're increasing this trailer. It was never a cottage, it's a trailer. And now
Which is
they're-
shown on
now they're
the division
choosing
appraisal field card.
build a house that has nothing to do with the trailer and saying it's beautifying something that was a detriment.
And
The trailer could be lovely, just the same size it is. I'm not sure why they would need to expand it 85%. I really.
It's not 85.
It's not
It
80.
is, it's much more than 320. It's not 460. That is an expansion.
So I'm looking at I'm using the survey and I look at the survey and the survey shows what is added, and without doing any math, by eye, you can see. It's not even 50%, it's maybe 30.
Yeah, roughly.
You
Right.
look at the survey, you can see that.
The survey is of the trailer?
It's of all the buildings,
It's all structures and. of
it's everything.
property.
Yep.
So I'm really confused, the
Well,
main
well,
structure.
there it is. So the shaded area with the diagonal lines.
And that's after they've already built on.
But
Well, we can't, you know, you have to stop, Bob. I have to stop you with they've built it on, okay? Because there's absolutely no facts, nothing here that says that. So, you know, enough with well, they're building on. We're talking about what they're proposing to do.
They propose 7 feet out of this cover. It is detrimental to the surrounding properties.
But I'm trying to find out what the detriment is, and the only thing I've heard is views. And we've discussed the views, which are not rights, and the board can't even take that into consideration. That's an issue.
Okay, well, I believe that the variance would make the structure more valuable by increasing the size and footprint like they're talking about. And I also believe that the relief requested is not the least necessary.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else?
Are there any restrictions on the height of?
34 feet.
34.
34,
Is it-
35, I'm sorry, 35 feet. So if they decided they wanted to put a second story on and go up 35 feet, they could. No, that wouldn't be a variance. That's building height allowed in the town of Portsmouth. is
Would
35 feet.
that be a special use permit on a substandard lot
That
of
might
record?
be that, but at the end of the day, they can go up 35 feet.
Okay.
So
And are there any height restrictions on accessory dwelling units? or anything?
Yeah.
There are.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Can't go with the height of
For
the
accessory,
existing.
not in Portsmouth?
Not in Portsmouth.
Okay, there's no restrictions, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Yep. Way to tell the truth.
Hello and good evening. Yes, I swear to tell the truth. Stephanie Doty. I am on Prudence Island at 048 3rd Street and also of 19 Pine Street in Oxford, Massachusetts. In listening to what the McIntoshes have said and in listening to what you have in front of you, kind of changes what I was thinking. And I can only say that I do agree with where the McIntoshes were coming from and that when I purchased my home, so I am abutting the Robertsons on the west side, so the back of their property
Okay.
abuts with mine. It was previously one property and the estate sold it as 2 separate lots. And so it's extremely non-conforming. So their edge of their trailer was, I think, 6 feet from my property line already. And so, you know, again, I was also told they were just gonna wrap the trailer, and understanding the process being that if significant changes were made, we would be having this discussion. But kind of what has been happening, as stated, but not, for some reason, not documented, is that they have extended the trailer, which is a trailer, does not have a cement foundation, which I think was previously stated. So they have added to the front, they've added to the back, and they've added to the size of that unit. Yes, prior to the survey. So if that makes it an existing structure, it's very troubling to me as a property owner that kind of work can be done in the town of Portsmouth, and then is automatically considered like okay to just work on stuff without a permit and then have it surveyed and it magically becomes okay. So I don't understand that, but I guess for future reference, if I want to do that to my house. So I guess I'm just, you know, for me, my concern is kind of building it out any further. And so with the existing request, to bump out for the dining area. And again, I would point out that if you look at the total kind of area of the property and what was previously covered when they purchased the property and when I purchased my property, it is dramatically different. And due to the fact that they've already built it out, the numbers really don't compute. However, for an example, and I know that the laws have recently changed with the size of sheds as auxiliary dwellings. So they were
That hasn't changed.
in January.
By 12,
It's out without a permit, I mean,
10 by 12,
now without a permit.
3 feet from the rear of the property.
Yes, yes. So basically, they replaced the shed and they moved the other shed away. But it's also not being used as a shed. So I think that was just another question that I had is use of an auxiliary structure. It's 10 by 12 by, depending upon where you look at it, because it has a foundation, probably above 12 feet. What is the setback requirement
3
for,
feet from the rear of the property.
even if it's being used as a living space? Doesn't matter.
You know, I can probably drive through a lot of places in town.
Yeah,
And find things like that going on.
okay, so it's 3 feet. And so we're good there.
If that's happening, my recommendation would be to pick up the phone, call the building inspector's office.
Well, I think,
Let them know that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so I guess it's just, I guess we really don't, I think what I would ask for, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion right now between what what the building inspector's office knows but hasn't documented for some reason. And obviously the information that you have in front of you, which I totally understand how the survey is today after they built it out. Is there any way that we could get a continuance so that we could look to see, to have some conversation, or for you to tie out with the building office, just to kind of see what happened with that? Does that make sense?
not really.
No?
I mean, no, you know, again, as sat here all night, I mean, depending on which way the vote goes, everybody has the right to challenge the decision made by the board either way. Again, people have had ample time, or the information has been out there, ample time, and now to come tonight and say, well, geez, we want to look at it again. It's, even if you went to the building inspector's office, it's not going to have an impact on what happens here, okay? You could question the building department, ask for records, were they ever cited? We don't have anything that says they ever were. Otherwise, we would have that in front of us tonight. If you're not happy with the building inspector's office, see the town administrator. Tell them you believe that they should have been cited, they weren't, why?
Right.
You know, I can't speak to those departments at all.
Understand.
You know, so, and it's difficult, and Prudence Island's no different than Hog Island, and what's happening on Prudence Island now is no different than what's happened Prudence Island back in the early 70s when I used to spend a lot of time there.
I did too.
Did you?
Yeah.
I can name names, we'll name them later.
Okay, we're not going there.
But, you know, people back then did a lot of things to their houses and
yeah.
all, you know, and no building permits, no nothing. Because it's sort of like out of sight, out of mind, who's gonna watch? And I'm sure a lot of that goes on today. It goes on in town here.
Right,
No.
right. And I do know that it is a lot more, I mean, because we are now part of Portsmouth.
You've always have been. It's just the ferry changed.
I don't know. Well, way back when it wasn't,
It always,
always was. Oop,
Hog and Prudence have always been a part of Portsmouth.
okay. In any case, you know, that would be my only,
Okay.
that's my only thing. Like, it's just, it really just astonishes me how that can happen. And
Right.
then, so there really is no avenue for abutters to, you know, to have any objections to something that
Well, you know.
supposedly is pre-existing, but wasn't.
You know, if there was illegal construction going on and somebody notified the building inspector's office, My thing would be they should have followed up with the building inspector saying, okay, hey, what happened? Were they cited? No, why not? And push it at that point, which would have been more beneficial to, or today.
Right, and I think that maybe that was like maybe just a misunderstanding, if you will. Thinking that today would take that into consideration, not
Only if we had something.
understanding, yeah,
Right.
right, I understand. Okay, well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Somebody online. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
No, not yet. Do you have you got somebody, Aaron? All right, go ahead. Pat McCaffrey, are you on? He's,
Can you hear me?
yes, now we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. My name is Pat McCaffrey, as you can see. I'm in a butter at, we live at 022 Fairview, just down the street. We've had our house for about 20 years, and I just want to briefly kind of reiterate and make my comment that I think to characterize that 420 square foot structure as a pre-existing house is not really accurate, because for the whole 20 years we've lived here until very recently, that was a 10 by 32 foot trailer. So whether the additions were made legally or illegally, I don't know, but I find the plot plan to be a little bit disturbing because of what my neighbor Stephanie said, that you can do this and there's no consequence for it. And that's all I wanted to say, just to back them up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the additional time. I note that the time, and I really don't want to waste the board's time, but there's been an accusation of wrongdoing on aimed at my clients. I just want to address that. So the timeline for what happened is my clients applied for and received a building permit from the building official. They started construction, and it's just the two of them working on the property. So they're not making too much progress because it's just two people. The permit expired, and the building official notified my clients of that, at which point they went to reapply, and the building official had received objections from abutters saying, well, there's no survey. At that point, my clients stopped work at the request of the building official, requested a survey, received a survey, applied for zoning and relief, and that's why we're here tonight. So there's been no wrongdoing on behalf of my clients. I just wanted to address that. I think all the other points that have been raised by the objectors have been properly addressed by the board. Thank you.
Mr. Hartman, here's where now you just like threw some mud into the water to make it even cloudier.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out how they would have obtained a building permit in the beginning at all if they were already encroaching, because they would have been told to come here first.
As far as I'm concerned, they were not encroaching, and from what I understand, on Prudence Islands, the lot lines are not all that clear, but what I can say is they did receive approval from the building official and began work, and as soon as they were asked to stop, they stopped.
Okay. I'm gonna offer this. Keep it in mind that should the petition be denied, you cannot come back for a whole year. Okay? Because I'm hearing that construction was done illegally with no permit. Now I'm being told it was started with a permit, but the permit expired. Okay? And I don't have facts or figures for either or. Now, you could ask for a continuance, and it would give you the opportunity to get the information from the building inspector's office that said, yes, we did initially issue a permit. This is why we stopped it, etc. Yeah, I don't get, if you're working on it, it doesn't expire. That's where I'm kind of confused at. If you're continuing to work on something, the permit does not expire. So it's your choice what you want to do here. But if you read the board,
Well,
right,
Mr. Chair, if you give me a moment to confer with my clients.
absolutely. Sorry. I know. Mr. Hartman, we still have two petitions we're trying to hear tonight, hopefully.
I apologize.
That's all right.
Ask for the board patience.
Yeah, about that. All right, Mr. Hartman, you got to decide what you're gonna do here, because we have to move on one way or the other.
I'd just like to clarify because I was there when the building inspector
Okay,
came out.
I'm not even gonna entertain
Okay.
that right now.
All right, but I did show him my building permit.
Okay,
I don't know whether he had issued it or it was a building inspector prior, and he said it expired after 6 months.
okay.
Mr. Chair, we would, if the board would continue the application, we would appreciate that.
All right. I request to continue the petition. Let me get back to my thing of, A Bailey's LLC, Robert and Jean Robertson, to our regularly scheduled meeting of October 19th. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Could I have a second? Motion been made and second to continue the petition of A Bailey's LLC to our October meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's been continued.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next item on the agenda is petition by Zach Ethier, 295 Riverside Avenue, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, tax assessors map 51. See, applicant is seeking to add a second story to an existing structure on a substandard lot of record. The addition is an intensification of use. There's no net increase in lot coverage or setbacks. Raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa.
Rami Sidani, 4 Court Street, Suite 102, Taunton, Mass.
And,
Zachary Ethier, 295 Riverside Street, Portsmouth.
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have an existing structure over down at 295 Riverside Street that I took over pretty recently in the past year. Gonna make it my primary residence, small little beach cottage rental area in the past for primary residence. Seeking a special use permit at 758 square feet. Really minimal, and so looking to expand the living area.
So all you require is just a special use permit under Article section A1C, correct?
That is correct.
There's no lot coverage or setback.
Correct,
requests.
correct.
Yeah, the number of bedrooms is staying as is, not increasing. And, you're facing the house on the right-hand side of the septic system. The left-hand side, there's no room for anything. And the rear is right by the water, so the only way for an addition is to go up. And the proposed addition meets the height restrictions. We're not going to any variances or lot coverages, footprint staying as is.
Questions?
I don't know. There is an elevation, right?
Yeah.
Partially.
Partial, yep. Okay. So let me run through the special use criteria, because that's basically what you're here under. Desired use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area.
No, all the neighboring are single family housing.
It'll be compatible with neighboring land uses.
Yes, a lot of the houses are two
It will
floors.
not create a nuisance or a hazard in the neighborhood.
No,
Adequate protection is afforded to the surrounding property by the use of open space and planting.
yes, there's no
Safe-
restrictions.
Safe vehicular access and adequate parking are provided.
Yes,
Control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, any other objectionable features provided.
no. Oh, yes. No, there's no,
Solar rights of the abutters are provided for. And the proposed special use will be in conformance with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan and the ordinance of the town of Portsmouth.
Correct.
yes, correct,
And health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected.
yes.
Okay, absolutely.
So the proposed there. It's the existing setbacks. What was there before?
The- No, I was there in front of the zoning board back in November, December for a special use and a variance for the deck, for that proposed deck that was approved by the town.
I do remember that. Okay. Any other questions? No? Butters are interested parties? Nope. All right, seeing none, Zach Ethier is before the board for property located at 295 Riverside Avenue, tax assessors map 15, lot 51. Seeking a special use permit to add a second story to an existing structure on a substandard lot of record. Applicants giving testimony that they do meet all the criteria of the special use permit. Mr. Reposa. Special use permit. Good. Thank you. Horowitz.
I'm going to approve the special use. permit.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
I also vote to approve the special use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I vote to approve the special use permit. You guys meet the A2J criteria.
Chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated, so you're all set.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
10 minutes to spare. We have the last one, which is Hildeberto Leandres. Did I pronounce that correct? You did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For property located at 0 Mason Avenue, being tax assessors map 25 lot 5 zoned residential. Applicant seeks a dimensional variance under Article 4, Sections B and C5 to construct a 16 by 20 storage shed within the front side setback. Raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay. Please give Teresa your name and address.
Hildeberto Leandres, 8 Omarad Ave in Portsmouth.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just basically asking for permission to build a shed at the end of my property.
I guess, first of all, couple things I gotta ask. I'm looking at this drawing. And it says existing dwelling on piers that's not yours, right?
No,
But is the one in the back yours?
no.
Okay. So where's the house? Is there a house on this piece of land?
There is on Amarad.
Okay. Why such a big shed? Why not just meet the 10 by 12 requirement of the town? Why so big?
Just a lot of storage. It gets very windy down there from the ocean and everything just gets blown everywhere.
Aaron, is there any way you can bring up like satellite view of this? Sure can. I'd appreciate that. I'm just trying to figure this out. And it looks like you're required to put if you haven't already, you have to put a new septic in, right?
I just did.
Oh, you did, so you did do it. So which one is it? This one right here that doesn't show a structure on it.
That's correct.
So there wasn't a structure there. Did you just build it?
No,
There's no structure on the property.
there's no structure there.
It's a residential use.
No, I understand that.
So where do you live? Are you,
I live on the house on 2510 there.
So what is the septic system on their survey?
It goes right,
Yeah. So Kevin, does that not merge those lots? We ran into this in Common Fence Point, I think, years ago where they had, no, it was in Island Park where the house was on one piece of property, they owned the abutting piece of property, and the septic was on that. Isn't this now considered one lot?
There is some recent case law which indicates that the Rhode Island does not follow a common law merger by use. It has to be merger only by approval of a subdivision. So theoretically, someone could put a garage over the lot line, and that doesn't necessarily merge the lots.
So even though the use, in this case, not so much a garage, but it's the actual septic system serving the house.
Yeah, I don't think, I had researched this for a
Yeah.
while, but I don't think the board should consider whether it's
Okay.
a merger.
All right. So, all right, so you have a fairly large house. And now you want to put a 16 by 20 shed. That's a fairly good sized house. I have to go back to why not just a 10 by 12 shed, which you could put there as a matter of right.
just for storage.
Okay. You kind of have to give the board something that tells us it's more than a mere inconvenience. I mean, right, yeah, 16 by 20, you're right, it's bigger than, yeah, that's almost a 1-car garage.
it's 100 square feet less than that previous house. that we
Right,
just completed.
exactly,
That was the whole house.
exactly. So. I mean. I guess I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else?
Also, I thought we weren't committed to put it in the front yard, so that's.
Well, that's the other part of this is that it would need dimensional variance, which he does have. There are dimensional,
Why can't it go further back? Why can't the shed be at the rear of your property?
That's why I want to put it at the rear of the property.
no, it's right on the street side.
Well, actually, it's the rear of the property of the house side, excuse me, but it's on the west.
That's a different lot.
That's right. You're correct. I'm sorry. So it is in the front of the property.
Can you put it at the rear of a particular property?
I can't because of the septic tank.
Well, but the leaching field and that's like in the middle, there's space at the back. But it's weird because the other deck overlaps the property.
Yeah. Well, I know, but it looks to me like there's space in the back. If you're looking at it from Mason Avenue, you see where it says existing cesspool to be pumped. Then you got that whole space in that back left corner. There appears to be a shed now.
That's the old existing shed that I had to move. Which that's gonna be moved, that's falling apart,
So why can't the new shed go there?
because that's like a driveway. And there's like an entrance there to the basement. There's really not much room there.
So you're utilizing this piece of property to access that house?
That is correct. There's a driveway there. That is correct.
Got it.
I don't have a driveway in the front on Omaha Drive.
Okay. So why not just merge the two lots together and make it one?
I,
What's that? Well, nothing really. All right.
Is there anything in the area that's similar to that?
Not that, if you look, most of the sheds there are standard. Yeah. Right. Yep. Well, and I've driven down there a lot recently, and most of them are all standards for the sheds. Yeah. Very slippery slope. Okay. Well, this is true.
Right, you weren't being in there, come to this way over here, all of a sudden it's one big floor.
Yeah.
And then it was a house that other.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. Any other questions from the board? No? Anything else you'd like to add?
no, sir.
Okay, I just asked to ask for butters and interested parties to this, see if anybody wants to speak.
That's just my son.
Just your son. Okay. So, Hildeberto Leandres is before the board for tax assessors map 25, lot 5. Seeking a dimensional variance of 17 feet to the front and 7 feet to the side for the purpose of putting a 16 by 20 shed on the property within the front and side yard setback. My opinion and my vote is to, I hate to say it, but to deny the petition. I don't think it's the least relief necessary. And I don't think that there are not other options. A 10 by 12 shed is allowed as a matter of right. Had the applicant come with a 10 by 12 shed, put it in the area, I probably would have considered that more than a large one. A 16 by 20, to Mr. Reposa's point, very easily can be converted to a garage. And we've seen that, and it evolved into more than that. I don't believe this amounts to more than a mere convenience standard if it's denied. The applicant, his house is on the property abutting this. He's using both properties sort of as one. So my vote's to deny. Mr. Reposa.
Fortunately, I sympathize with you saying. You know, it's an easy solution to a common problem, but. For the sake of. You know, common. Sheds in the area doesn't really fit with what allowed. If it was a little bigger, then yes, but I've seen stuff come across the board and then. Might not be what's happening here, but. It just sets a precedent for other things in the area, which unfortunately I deny the petition, but.
Can I ask for a garage? Would that make things differently?
Well, let us finish voting and you can ask Ms. Horowitz.
Yeah, I vote to deny for reasons stated.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
I'm going to vote to deny with a little regret, but yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yeah, regretfully, I'm gonna have to vote to deny for reasons stated by Mr. Knott.
It's been denied, but my recommendation, Mr. Umberto, would be to you may want to consider merging those lots as one and propose a garage. Problem solved. You know, I think it would be very hard if you were to decide in the future to sell that lot because your septic system.
I totally agree with you.
Can't.
To merge the property together,
Yeah.
it costs so much money that I don't have.
Oh.
I tried to, I looked into it and to have it surveyed, it was gonna cost $3,000. I just spent $50,000 to put a septic tank in it. You know, that I didn't even ask, I paid out of my pocket with no housing. So just for, to, you know.
You can come back to the board with a substantial change in your plan. If you came back, and I'm not saying it would get approved, but if you came back with a garage, explain to the board that I use this as one continuous piece of property. I want to put a garage. The reason I haven't merged them is because of the high cost.
Yeah.
Yet I really can't sell the property because my septic system. So that may help you. And I'm sure Aaron could probably help you along that line on how to do that. Okay? So we don't like to deny if we don't have to, but I think there's another way you can do it. Okay?
There
All
are
right.
options, the shed side, you have like the lofts, maybe a different pitch, get some more
Something, yeah,
square footage
yeah.
for storage up top and
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
All right, you as well. Before we adjourn, two things. I'd like to thank Mr. Harris for your service.
Thank you.
Wish you the best. And Aaron, wish you the best in your bride to be.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, congratulations. Thank you for getting us out of a month's meeting. You know, it's funny because I asked Aaron the other day what she said when he told her that they had to move the wedding because he had a zoning board meeting. What's that? Yeah. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Where are you? Thank you.